Saturn, the lord of space and time and karma, the matrix that we live in, the one who creates walls and boundaries, rules and restrictions, but also makes things tangible and real, is going to move into the sign of Pisces, where everything's mystical and magical and wondrous and fairy godmothers and angels and Santa Claus, and also where Neptune, the god of addiction, fantasy, imagination, and enlightenment, is all currently traveling. And we're going to see some big changes in the world, huge changes in the world as a result of that. I'm going to give you 7 predictions for big things that are going to change between March the 7th of this year, 2023, and February of 2026. And then I'm going to go into the all signs portion of the reading, talk about how this will impact you based on your rising sign, sun, and moon secondarily. So we're going to get rolling in this exciting video. This is part 2. If you want to watch my earlier video that I put out in December, I'll put it in the description box. I also talk about your sign there. I'm going to cover it in a little bit of a different way this time around. So it's not the same video, so you might want to go back and watch the other one. First of all, let's talk Saturn just as a concept, right? He's not a terrible person. He's just like the lord of things getting real. And then Pisces is thing is very mystical and very transcendent. When you add Neptune, who's also very imaginal and fantastical as a planetary energy in Pisces, which in modern astrology, he's in his house of rulership. In the ancient tradition, Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. But when you add all of that up, Saturn is like a cold water, a cold shower, a sober, realistic view of something that's been going on in the Pisces corridor since 2011, when Neptune first entered there. This is a really big deal. In 2026, Neptune will leave that part of the sky into Aries, along with Saturn, when they will meet together for the first time in a long, long time in Aries, 0 degrees in 2026. Now, let's talk about who is most impacted. But before we do that, like based on rising sign, if you are new to my channel, my name is Lori Lothian. I am a whole sign house Hellenistic astrologer. I am using the Western tropical zodiac, not the sidereal zodiac. I love asteroids and I'm totally fond of fixed stars. And we'll be talking in this video today, though, mostly just about the planetary movement of the Saturn moving through the sign of Pisces for almost 3 years, and how that will influence the world, especially as he's co-present with Neptune, as he will be sextiling Jupiter, moving through Taurus, and even connecting with the nodes of fate in a very harmonious way during the most of the year of 2023. I'm really narrowing this down to how this will impact you really in 2023. If you want to hit my bell for notifications, it means you're going to know when I'm having one of my live contest premieres, and people are winning readings from me all of the time. If you want to book with me, of course, go ahead, check my description box below for my website. I'm booked out now until the month of May. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going to have to close my calendar up because of that. Lastly, I am teaching my Sky Reader class for the 3rd time. Be your own astrologer, time your best live. It's coming up in the middle of March. If you want to get on the wait list and get early bird discounts and even just be notified in time to enroll, check out the description box below and you will be able to be on the list to know about when I am opening the doors for enrollment. All right. Whoa, we got so much to talk about here. We really do. It's like, oh, I need to take a deep breath before I start. Whew. First of all, the purpose of astrology is to give you a map, or give you a weather forecast, or give you navigational guidance. It's not to terrify you or scare you or make you worry that the sky is falling Chicken Little. Just be aware that my motive in doing astrology is to give you a clear guidance system for what's coming up personally and collectively. I just had a client this morning. I'm recording on February 9th. My Patreon community gets all this content ahead of time for $5 a month, ad-free. You might want to join in. And she had a horrible story of a well-known astrologer, he's passed away now, giving her this horrendous forecast of like the sudden death of an ex-husband who she's dear friends with, and a suicide of a child, and a bunch of awful stuff. And honestly, I said, that's malpractice. That is malpractice. So we don't want to do astrological malpractice. We want to tell you about what is possible and probable, so that you can work with the sky in a harmonious, flowing way. Why would you want to go against the wind, right? Why would you want to swim upstream? That's the gist of it. Get on your inner tube, flow with the sky, flow downstream. So I think I want to start with the idea that there are certain signs who feel this the most, obviously Pisces, right? Like, okay, Pisces, we're starting with you today. If you're a Pisces rising, especially Sun and Moon secondarily, boy, do you feel it. As well, if you were born with Saturn in the sign of Pisces between 1993 and 96, check your ephemeris, then in that window of time, you're having a Saturn return. Well, Saturn comes back to Pisces, is also hooking up with Neptune. So it's a big deal story. If you know that you have Saturn and Pisces in your natal chart, this is a big time period over the next 3 years for you. Now, Saturn and Pisces is meeting with Neptune co-present over the next 3 years. This is something that didn't happen 93 to 96. This is something new and fresh and interesting for the world. I went back and looked at an aspect calculator and could only find an actual conjunction between Saturn and Pisces in like 1200, the year 1200, and another crazy ass time, like, which I don't have it handy, like 1400 and something, meaning that it's exquisitely rare to see the Neptune-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. And we're not going to see that this time. We're going to see them co-present until the very finish line in February of 26, when then they both slip into zero Aries together. And that is a different kind of energy completely. That's a whole other video. But having Neptune present with Saturn, in other words, they're swimming in the same Piscean ocean, even if they're not holding hands over these 3 years, is critical. So Pisces people feel extraordinarily strongly. So do the signs angular to Pisces. We call those mutable signs. That would be Virgo across the way, and then it would be the Gemini, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You're feeling this angular or squaring or opposing your Sun, Moon, and or especially rising sign. So this is going to have a critical impact on you. Also, anyone ruled by Saturn, which would be people like me, an Aquarius rising or a Capricorn rising, have special dibs on feeling the effect, because Saturn, your Lord, is moving into Pisces. You will notice it. It's like you're at your planet, right? That's the one that pays attention to you. You should be paying attention to Saturn. And then lastly, I think least impacted, but I can't say not impacted at all. That's ridiculous, of course. But the least impacted signs will probably be the Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Okay, probably the Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and the Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. That's just because those signs are in aversion to, or what we would call 30 degrees and 150 degrees away from where the sky action of Pisces and Neptune and Saturn are all existing. So just keep that in mind. Now, Saturn can only reach the 7th degree in 2023 of the sign of Pisces before he stations at 7 and turns around and goes backward. What does that mean? It means if your Sun, Moon, or Rising is in the 7th, up to the 7th degree of any of those signs that you are, then you're going to feel it more than the later degrees. We call that the first decan. I would just say the first 10 degrees of any sign, your Sun, Moon, or your Rising is in the first 10 degrees of any sign, you're going to feel this strongly, like, just more strongly than most people who may have the rising sign, Sun, or Moon in the later degrees. All right, so keep that in mind as well. You'll get your turn. That will be 2024 when you really, really feel it, and into 2025 for the very tail end degrees of those signs. Okay. So those are general principles of astrology. Let's make some bold predictions and then talk about how your all signs will probably go. Number one, the energy here is going to be interesting because Jupiter will be involved in a flowing and positive way starting in the month of May, when Jupiter around May 16th enters into Taurus and will be there for one whole year. What that means is that Jupiter is in a whole sign flow, okay, an easy relationship to what? To Saturn in Pisces. That's called a sextile. It's a nature of Venus. It can bring some luck and opportunity and goodness. Some people could say that Jupiter, full of exuberance in the sign of Taurus, will need some tempering or some rules or some structure from Saturn, but it's still a sextile, and it's flow and it's opportunity and it's good and it's the nature of Venus. There will be times in general where this is more intense and more perfect, and that will specifically be, and I wrote this down for you, this will specifically be when on June the 19th, and give or take a week or two on either side, okay? Saturn at 7 degrees will connect with Jupiter at 7 degrees, 7 degrees of Pisces to 7 degrees of Taurus. But interestingly, Saturn is also going to retrograde when this perfects. So there's also a weird thing about going back to the past. It reminds me of Back to the Future, but just time travel or something. Lord of Time, Chronos, Saturn going backwards. and yet also connecting to Jupiter, going back and yet having an opportunity. Before this happens, I really like before it makes its perfect connection around the 19th, Saturn stations, I think, on the 17th or the 18th. So, but still, you could say the whole month of June is infused with this flow between Saturn and Jupiter in your houses of Pisces and Taurus, which we'll do in the all signs. And second of all, that's informing this transit in an interesting way for all of us, is that the North Node, South Node, Rahu Ketu, moving through Taurus and Scorpio since January of 22 through to mid-July of 23, okay? While they're still in this axis of eclipse change area, they're going to also be getting a touch from Saturn. And that's the whole month of April. The whole month of April, Saturn will be in a flow to the North Node called a sextile in Taurus, in your Taurus 12 house Pisces, and also trining the North South Node in Scorpio. So there's this flow, glow, love up energy with Saturn, bringing something to bear in a positive way to this change quarter that you've been experiencing all through 22 and into the first half of 23 with the nugget, the egg yolk of those eclipses. There will be a last eclipse in this corridor in October, but it's partial and out of sign in October 24. So we're really seeing a kind of final Saturnian form structure, reality making cooperation with what's been going on in your eclipse cycle. Alrighty, so I have a lot of videos on the eclipses and also the new nodes changing into Aries and Libra in my description box, in my playlist. Check all my stuff out for all of that. I would say to you that I think it's around the middle of April where it's really exact with the nodal contact between Saturn and, around the 16th, 17th, between Saturn and the nodes of fate. But this is happening too. The degree of all this action is happening around 3 and 4 degrees of the sign of Taurus and the sign of Pisces. So keep that in mind. And at the time in April, Saturn is moving forward. He's not retrograde, right? So it's definitely some kind of action in the real world, not some kind of subtle backward motion to something from the past. All right, so we will get going and do the signs, but let's do the 7 bold predictions. The 7 bold predictions for Saturn, for Saturn moving through the sign of Pisces. Alrighty, let's roll. Drum roll, please. Okay, I made a list. Now, I just want to say, I did a little historical, I think, review of what Saturn was doing in historical times when he was kind of moving through Pisces in general, with or without Neptune. And I will just go over that really quickly. Religious reform, revolutions like the French Revolution, welfare reform, things like plagues, the Black Death. Yeah, sorry about that. But we already had our plague. I'm not sure we're going to get another one. Things like gold rushes, opiate wars. I'm giving you examples from the past. The Mongol hordes consolidating under Genghis Khan and taking over parts of Asia. So land grabs, for example. Things to do with regulations around drugs, which we'll get to. That happened to be 1905 to 1908. That was when the first kind of a Food and Drug Administration vibe happened in the United States. It was called the Pure Food and Drug Act. It was basically, said you had to label stuff. You can't give somebody a bottle of remedy snake oil without putting what ingredients are on the label. So it was the first regulations around pharmaceuticals, basically. And then I do know that there was breakthroughs in physics, and Einstein came up with this theory of relativity. Those are examples of some. In the Freemasons, a mystical tradition really took off with the Christian evangelical revival in the 1700s. So some of those broad themes are why I'm making these predictions about what may happen for the world in the next 3 years as this Saturn Pisces transit goes through. Bold prediction number 1, a huge desire to regulate and control the pharmaceutical industry. Why? Because certain things that happened during the pandemic will likely be seen in hindsight as government abdication of its oversight, because things like the FDA or CDC, but whatever, we're basically maybe under the influence of the money provided by the big pharma, or even the idea that Big pharma should be regulated from sponsoring news agencies like mainstream media, for whom sponsored by Pfizer, sponsored by Pfizer. So we can't possibly say there's anything wrong with what's going on with Pfizer, any kind of drug that they create. We can't talk about anything negative. So there's going to be maybe a 3-year period with Saturn asking for structure, containment, and rules, and a decoupling of the power of the big money of pharma to influence politicians, to influence media coverage. So I expect this to look like that. And it may be even new regulations around liability factors with pharma in its big pharma drugs and interventions medically, and whether or not they can always be held completely non-liable under certain special circumstances, like the emergency use authorizations in the United States for, say, the vaccinations. Right now, there's some things going on in Europe to try to sue the pharmacies, big pharma. And you may not know this, but India wouldn't get down with Pfizer at all regarding their vaccines in India, because India would not agree that Pfizer would sign a liability clause that things go south with this product, then they're accountable for it. So this kind of stuff. So there's going to be one bold prediction. Number one, Saturn will bring in some kind of restriction around pharma. Control legislation restriction. However, it also could be control of substances that are now becoming quite popular, such as psilocybin, ayahuasca, MDMA, what's that other one? Ketamine. So there's a lot of lately a desire to use these substances to cure depression, to release people from suicidal despair, to get people over addictions, and they're working. And there's science that shows that these things are really healing people. And Neptune is part of that imaginal realm of transcending to other dimensions. And Pisces is also the spiritual waters, and it's also to do with medications and drugs, Pisces as well. And so all along comes Saturn and goes, hey, well, if we're going to do this, it's like the legislation of marijuana in Canada, where it's totally legal now. We have stores everywhere. But I mean, it's more like the therapeutic value of these substances being legislated into, rule bound into constructive use. There may be new rules around who can use them, when they can be used, legalizing the use of them under certain circumstances, etc. I would expect that too to be a part of Saturn, Pisces, Neptune combination of effects. Okay. And there's a bit of paradise lost here, like a loss of faith. Anytime you see Saturn in a reconstruction of faith, a loss of faith, or even a religious zealotry that comes from a desire to find a new foundation, Saturn for faith. And so one of the things I could say is people's faith in the government to protect them, or big pharma to be looking out for your best interest, are going to be a little bit of a big problem there, a little bit of a loss of faith going on in the collective. And maybe a bit of despair with that, because Saturn brings despair, I have to say. All right, big, bold number, prediction number 2. Drum roll, please. We're going to see underwater cities. We're going to see something coming up, the structural Saturn from beneath the sea. What is it? What is it? Is there going to be a tidal wave, an earthquake, a rollback, something that just a discovery, you know, one of those guys with his like boat, ping, ping, ping. Oh my God, I'm pinging on something under the sea. What is it? Oh my God, it's like, you know, it's just offshore Bimini. That's already been done. It's just off the shore of Japan. That's already been done. There's underwater cities there. We have underwater cities all over the world because sea levels have risen dramatically from when underwater cities could have been there, ancient prehistory, but these are cities. These are, I'm not talking about underwater huts. I'm talking about underwater lost cities like Atlantis. So get ready for a potential here. Now, did we discover any underwater recoveries in 1993, 4, 5, 6? You bet your bottom dollar, I bet. I'm going to double check that. So if any of you are super historically geeky people, it would be June of 93 to April of 96, Saturn was in Pisces. I went to Google and looked when I was just checking it out. I could find it in those 3 years. There was a show called SeaQuest about future of humanity in which people were exploring the ocean and I guess, I don't know, living underwater or something. And that's, of course, SeaQuest is perfect Saturn Pisces story. But, you know, now we have Neptune, the sea god there. So I'm expecting more dramatic uncovering of something under the sea. So that's bold prediction number 2, uncovering lost cities as well as containing the ocean. Why? Saturn is walls and barriers and boundaries and containment and ocean. So what kind of ocean containment? Well, first of all, obviously like sandbags for floods and stuff, very possible for sure. a lot more containment of sinking cities. Maybe Venice is going to have to really level up, or parts of Mexico City are sinking under the water now. So places like that where there's water ingress, and trying to find barriers around water bodies or whatever. I think I'm right about Mexico City, some water problem. And number two, it's not just containing the water, which what Saturn can do is, like, we're going to have big news stories about how to contain floods and save people from rising water levels or something like that, or floods or tsunamis or whatever, unfortunately. But we may also have our hardship through water, right? So water hardship, floods, tsunamis, etc. Sorry to say. But the other thing is that Saturn is kind of like rules and restrictions around water. So that could be new water rights, water fights, water debates. For example, like what do you call it? Like an embargo, like when, like, say, Taiwan would put boats and ships all around. I mean, China would circle Taiwan, which they did when Nancy Pelosi was threatening to go to Taiwan. And I think she did go to Taiwan. So saber rattling war maneuvers around maritime war, maritime rules, maritime law. So, that looks like those kinds of battles. I mean, years ago, there was all kinds of debates about offshore fishing rights in various nations, and who was ingressing on whose rights and whose land, and how far off of a shore does a nation own the water. Those things could come up as well. And lastly, Saturn water, or circling and barricading people from getting close to places through ships barricading. But lastly, also maybe Saturn will clean up the water. Rules and regulations around water pollution, cleaning up the waste in our waters, our waterways, or also, unfortunately, like a severity and difficulty around the oceans. So much is going on with our oceans, like so much is going on with water temperature and tidal currents and changes with environment, and the sun is part of that. So big stories around severity, challenges and difficulties with water as well. But I certainly like the best one. I really like number 2, boom, 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 underwater. I want to find Atlantis. I want to find something under the sea, and Neptune, the sea god, who's in co-present over the next 3 years, may help us do that. Okay, bold prediction number 3, alternate reality discoveries or interdimensional portals. Okay, what does that look like exactly? I'm not sure. If Einstein discovered the theory of relativity during a Neptune, Saturn in Pisces moment in the early 1900s, or came up with it, published it. So then maybe what we're going to see is some new breakthroughs in the understanding the nature of reality from theories like quantum gravity or the multiverse theory. Now, these theories of quantum gravity or the multiverse, which are, some breaking cutting edge tendrils of quantum physics. And I don't know enough to speak intelligently about it. No, I'm not an expert, but it's very possible that there could be breakthroughs and things to do with these themes, even the concept of time travel, whether it's realistic or not, because Chronos, Saturn, Lord of Time, Neptune, interdimensions. So expect a lot of movement around the way science sees reality, as Saturn and Neptune are in the same space together during the next 3 years. Definitely would have maybe some scientific breakthroughs to do with sound technology. Neptune can rule sound, as well as technology for videography. We're going to get to that part next. So new sound technology, healing technologies maybe, but more importantly, and more specifically, some kind of new paradigm shift. Saturn, the creator and the breaker of paradigms, like religious rules of structure. Saturn, it's always been Newtonian physics, and then bang, it wasn't anymore. It was quantum physics. So I'd say bold prediction number 3, the new physics. All right. Bold prediction number 4. All right, the rise of a new spiritual path or religion or cult or something like that. Now, you would see religious fanaticism anytime Neptune is in Pisces. You see gurus, both good and bad. You see things like savior, martyr complex people. Then Saturn comes in and gives it form and gives it structure. So at one point, the Mormons are just floating around doing their thing, and next thing you know, they're a giant religion. And so it would be like more of a religious revival of some kind, but within a specific niche that has been already incubating since 2011. I don't know what that is, because that's when Neptune entered into Pisces and was getting the mystical, magical, and maybe delusional religious stuff going somewhere in the world. So am I on number 4? I better not lose count. Yes, number 4. Yes. And so get ready to see some kind of rise of a new religion or some kind of existing religion begin to take on incredibly solid structures and forms. Now, this could be micro niche stuff like, like a branch of the Christian church taken off in a new direction, or it could be the other way around. It could be something, much larger that's grabbing the world, the religion of the aliens who landed in the White House lawn. Praise the White House lawn, praise the aliens on the White House lawn. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Not sure, because with the Uranus and Taurus stuff going on, I still think UFO stuff squaring Aquarius is still up in the air for the world. So we could have some new religious cult or revival or something like that. Certainly also Saturn, when we speak of religion, Saturn in Pisces can restrict religious belief and try to repress it, like the Crusades and the punishment of heretics. And also the idea of religious reform can happen here. Like maybe it's time to buckle down and reform some religion. I don't know how many religions are left that people actually care about them being reformed or not, but let's use an example of a fundamentalist religion that we think is a little over the top, whatever that would be. Maybe there'll be some reform going on within those religious precepts to bring it back home to earth. Saturn could be like I'm just going to make an example. I don't care about that religion one way or the other, but if women are being repressed in a Islamic tradition of some kind, and there's the Sunni and the other one, the Shiite, maybe there'll be some kind of movement in one of the countries that uses that religion, and as the people adhere to it, around more religious reform, to give women more power and freedom. I do think things like Saturn and Pisces has led like to the first female bishop and all that kind of stuff. So it could work in that way as well. Alrighty, so that was number 4. We were talking about the religious story. I have them all written down. All right, this is a big one. If Saturn can make the unreal real, what would that look like? It would look like the metaverse, whatever that thing is supposed to be. Simulated reality, augmented reality. It's like that movie, the show on Amazon Prime with the girl wearing the goggles. And I can't remember the name of it. And she time travels to the future through, spoiler alert, through what is basically a simulation like doing a simulation. So I'm expecting that there will be some breakthroughs in augmented reality, the metaverse, that kind of thing. And I mean significant ones, because this is not just Saturn moving through the sign of Pisces, which in its own right can sort of lend itself to that. If you think about 1993, 94, 95, I believe 93 to 96 was Pokemon came out and the video games came out and people were on their Nintendos and all of that was really taking off. That was also the rise of Facebook, the virtual reality of connecting with you've got mail. We all kind of went online. The internet got up and running beyond the geeky guys in universities between 93 and 96. I know because I was an AOLer. I was like right there. I can't believe when people still have an AOL address for their emails. I'm like, really? But anyway, so think of it that way. So if Saturn coming through Pisces can do that. That was back in 93 to 96. What happens when Neptune's there? That's gaming us up a whole new level. I fully expect that we're going to be doing like virtual shopping by the end of 3 years, where I'm not going to go to the grocery store in person. I'm just going to get my goggles on and I'm going to go through some kind of visual scanning of the produce section. I'm going to touch an artificial piece of vegetable and pick that one. And then it goes into a virtual shopping cart. Then it goes to a computer that sends it to my home. I mean, this is the direction. And even if it doesn't all exist perfectly, there'll be pilots for that. There'll be test places where they're piloting this kind of way that we operate in augmented reality. If you want to think about the way Amazon and parcel delivery has taken over so that we no longer have to go shopping. We're in a virtual shopping gallery already, but now it's going to be much more hands-on and touch. Also, I don't know, because the technology is so new, how else it can be used. The sky's the limit with the imagination of Neptune. So I think I'm on number 5. I'm losing my count. Oh no, I'm losing my count. This is what happens when you're menopause brain. Let me go back and count my way through it. Big pharma, undersea discoveries, maritime, altered dimensions, the metaverse. There was something in the middle, religious reform. Okay, I'm on number 5, the metaverse, number 5. So there may be also a feeling here with Saturn bringing the real to the unreal, right? That there also could be like Saturn can constrain and control things. So, I mean, just like Saturn may control the drug industry by legislating big pharma, or Saturn may control the rampant opiate addictions of people on fentanyl dying all over the, North America, or drug center, treatment center stuff. Saturn can also legislate and control the metaverse. So we don't know if the metaverse needs any legislation or control, because Neptune rules film and video, and that includes YouTube, Instagram Reels, and TikTok. You're going to see Saturn being rules around that. In Canada, they try to pass a C-19 bill, which is going to actually restrict Canadians from seeing content that's not produced in Canada when they're on YouTube. Oh my effing God. They almost tried to pass, excuse my language, so that the CRTC in Canada, which is our governing body for broadcast stations, for like the big broadcast stations and the airwaves that they use to send signals to us, they were going to try to legislate that the CRTC and the government could control people like me on YouTube. I'm from Canada, and control my use of my channel. That didn't pass, but what has passed is they can make these filters happen so that if you live in Canada, you won't see something from the United States or another country. They're going to just filter for Canadian content. So that is exactly the vibe of Saturn coming into Pisces. I mean, it's so the vibe. Oh my God. So you'll see legislation and rules and restrictions around media, especially if it involves videography, imagery, okay? That kind of thing. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Okay, number 6, big bold prediction number 6. All right, get ready for welfare reform of some kind, like social platforms for, so like a universal basic income for people in some countries, or a new age of retirement, or new dispensations for people who are in the down and outs, because Pisces rules charity, insane asylums, hospitals, new things happening in legislation around prisons and the way the prison systems work, the way we take care of people, charitability. If you look at the streets of San Francisco, OMG, and you have somebody do video footage of how many people are homeless, there's blocks and blocks and blocks in LA and San Francisco of homeless people. It's out of control. There's no accountability. There's no homes for them. And there's no systems to catch them in any kind of net. So the idea of reform or rules and governance and stuff, Saturn structure for the people who are in the Pisces place of prisons, insane asylums, homelessness, down and out, the underdog. And so if possible, some countries will start to enact some significant welfare style reforms and structures to deal with what is a broken system. When 1% of the 1% of the population has 90% of the world's wealth, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get this problem called a ton of people. There's no more middle class. There's just like the underclass, and then there's the upper class, and then there's nothing in the middle. And so what's happening here, Saturn comes into Pisces, and he may try to make some kind of new rules and structures to reform this kind of disparity that is ongoing here. I may be going for 8. I might be a bonus one, okay? So look for that as a possibility over the next 3 years. I would love to see some more universal basic income, but you could also just see an increase in the hourly wage rates in a lot of countries where they recognize that the hourly wage rate is not working for people in an inflationary environment. Okay, bold prediction number 7. Watch the movie industry. Big changes in the type of Neptune, Hollywood, filmography, video, glamour that we're going to see. And, if you take Saturn, structured form and discipline, and reality and rules, and you add it to Neptune, Pisces, what do you get? Well, if I go back to 93, 94, 95, 96 kind of thing, when Pisces was here last, June of 93 to April of 96, I've looked at some of the big hits. It was the beginning of the cyberpunk movie stuff, okay? That was stuff based on William Gibson's books and all of that. So we had books like Hackers and Johnny Mnemonic, okay? And Time Cop, and things that were surreal to do with time or alternate realities, or what do you call it? Simulated reality, and cyberpunk was really big during that time. So we may see more movies that are taking us outside of our reality, outside of our structures that we normally take for granted, with those more Neptunian and Piscean themes, as Saturn represents the production and the making and the hard work to create that stuff and give it structure in the world so we can watch the movie. Also, it's funny enough, back then there was a movie called Waterworld, and also Miracle on 34th Street. Waterworld is like a movie about water. That could make sense, right? We'll have more water movies. But the Miracle on 34th Street was that Santa Claus is real. So Neptune, Pisces is all about Pisces about Santa Claus, right? Neptune would be like, that's really about Santa Claus. Neptune can rule faith and spiritual beliefs and stuff, especially when they're fanatical and zealot-like. But I have to say, I do kind of feel that Miracle on 34th Street is about two people trying to convince the world that this man who thinks he's Santa Claus is not mentally ill, but he really is Santa Claus. So there's something about the kind of film industry movement, like away from a certain type of film. For instance, like Saturn and Capricorn era, may have been made more structure around films to do with like historical films and stuff, which I find absolutely boring. And Saturn and Aquarius may have produced like filmography. I'm just making stuff up. I don't know. But I just think we're going to see a sort of sweeping shift in the kind of fiction we see when it comes to film. That's all. Of course, the film industry, the glam and all the downsides of it, including the addictions, the narcissism, the craziness, the out of control glam and bad things that happen in Hollywood, Neptune energy, Pisces, addictions, and seedy things too, right? Saturn here could be kind of cleaning it up, bringing like more like clean up that place, clean up bring a sober-minded, realistic energy to that industry as a whole. Because, Hollywood and the glams and the starlets and all that's fallen away. Why? Because now we kind of have everything. We have Amazon Prime and Netflix and Disney and Apple all making their own movies, We don't need the movie making industry the same way. So who knows? It could be like a bit of a shift around even the industry itself. And then I have a bonus content here. I was going to make an eighth bonus prediction. I don't know if it's a prediction. It's a cautionary note. I am noting that Neptune is associated with pandemics and illnesses. Okay, historically, there is that, and yet I feel I think the pandemic we went through was a Mars story, right? It has to do with the heliacal rise of Mars and all of that back in 2019 fall, because Mars is the emissary of Nergal and he's the god of plagues and wars. And we've seen that story play out and come to its denouement, coming to its winding down. But given that Neptune is connected to themes of illnesses that are from microscopic invisible things that make us sick, right? That's kind of the vibe there. And then along comes Saturn. There's something about that. Saturn is the Grim Reaper. Don't want to worry anybody. I'm not trying to make a negative statement here, but he has to do with endings too, especially like karmatic or cutting things, ending things, kind of Grim Reaper quality. Chronos, your time has run out. So I have some concerns. I'm not too sure there is a new pandemic or a plague that's going to hit us like the Black Death did. The Black Death had many waves, just so you know, but it's all because that was a time in which the Saturn Pisces transit happened back in the dates of the Black Death around then, 1346 to 1349, the Black Plague, the bubonic plague, which is borne by rats, but people couldn't figure out what was causing it at first, right? The buboes, so these big swelling things, and people most often died from. Okay, so I kind of feel like I'm going to say something. I'm going to try to couch it in code because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. There may be a possibility that pandemic interventions will have a longer term consequence that we become despairingly aware of, Saturn in Pisces, regarding consequences for the wellness and the health of people in the era who survived the era of the pandemic. So in medical tradition, they call it sequelae, after effects that come down the line from something. So is it after effects of the actual illness, which can maybe suppress the immune system, according to some scientists, and do a little bit of it, like almost AIDS-like T-cell die-off, that COVID, even in a mild case, can do that. That's in the research, it's in the literature, not my speculation. Or is it some of the interventions that we used, that have a consequence that's longer lasting than the duration of the actual intervention? Don't know. I'm hoping not. That's sort of my eighth bracketed little bit of a thought pattern. Now, I'm going to go through the all signs, but I'm going to get a T And I'm going to come back and I'm going to make this video very, very succinct, because as this happens over the years, I'll be talking individually about each of these transits. But I would like to give you a part 2, just like you can go listen to my earlier video that I created for all signs for 2023 big transit playlist. This will be an addendum, because this time I'm going to particularly focus on the Jupiter and the North Node in Taurus connection to Saturn in Pisces that will impact each of us in this year most effectively, most intensely in April, and then in May and June. So it's a kind of a shorter term focus point of what's happening, and as it applies to the nodes of fate as well. And will help, that may be sort of the final say on a longer story that's been rattling through your sky. So let me go grab a tea and I'll be right back. I know my Pisces people are so happy to be number one. So we have to start with you because it's such a big deal. All right, Pisces, if you are a Pisces rising especially, this is huge energy. Pisces sun and moon, well, yeah, maybe the sun is about career and purpose and father figures, the moon about mother figures, emotional set point, and home and safety. But clearly, this rising sign is your perspective on life and how everything that happens from the first house of your ascendant. If you're a Pisces sun, rising or moon, but most rising, if you're in the first 10 degrees of your sign, this is most important for you in 23. This is because, as I said earlier, Saturn only makes it to 7 degrees before retrograding and turning his butt around. And therefore, the most juice you're going to get is going to be for you earlier born people of the Pisces ilk. Now, one of the things I want to say is that you've been going through this transit of Neptune in your first house ever since 2011, and it's made you very dreamy and mystical. And some of you may even felt foggy and confused, struggled with mental health challenges or addiction, or just felt like having a hard time getting your ass grounded in reality. You are already a mystic poet dreamer. You're already a high imaginator. You're the God, you're the ones we need in this world. You're the visionary dreamer, mystic poets of the zodiac. You're the naturally inclined spiritual type, spiritual but not religious is the best of Pisces. You're a spiritual realist now, because when Saturn enters your first house, all of these highfalutin dreams and goals and visions or abstractness around your spiritual life or who you are or your real identity are going to be given a hard, stern, stoic, sober-minded, cold and calculating Saturnian overlay. Good luck to you, because it is a really huge energy shift from what you're used to experiencing since 2011. So for the good side of it, you may have been working on dreams and goals and ambitions and fantastical plans, and maybe even seeding new creativity, music, video, filmmaking, storytelling, photography, art, music, Neptunian things, or just floating around in a big bubble bath for the last 2 years since 2011. When Saturn comes into this place, because he's going to be co-present with Neptune in your house, it's going to mean you're going to come maybe into a much more tangible and realistic way of approaching your magical, creative, and mystical side. You'll be able to give it form and structure. Now, not to make light of this either, because Saturn in the first house for any sign is a feeling of having to become more serious in life, about our life, about our marriage partners and our job and our career and our children and our home. We begin to see the world through the lens of the sage, the wise woman, the wise men, the senex, the crone. We begin to see our own self as mortal and aging and aged. We begin to look more harshly at the world through the lens of Saturn's stoicism and realism, but also wisdom. And so you're going to dominate those energies through your beingness over the next 3 years. It can really make you serious about your health and get new forms and structures for better health. And if you don't pay attention to Saturn here, you will have health challenges. It's also getting much more sober-minded and realistic about the way that you wish to show up in your life, and sometimes it leads you to want to be alone more than you normally are. Now, to be clear, when Saturn moved through Aquarius March of 2020 to March of 2023, 3, you also were spending more time alone, but Saturn in the first house gives you more solace in solitude. Instead of feeling confined, like someone stuck you in jail because you're stuck alone, when Saturn goes through the house of you are naturally capable of being alone and feeling strong and solid in that sense of self-imposed isolation or self-imposed solitude. So all of that's a broad theme of the transit of Saturn moving through Pisces energetically. Remember, I wanted to focus on the fact that there's a hookup between lucky Jupiter and expansive and wealth-bringing Jupiter in Taurus and the movement of Saturn through the house of you. Now, the timing of this is going to be felt by you, alrighty? Exactly, okay, like really intensely around June the 19th. But you want to bookend that by at least a week or two on either side because it's a slow moving transit. So you're going to feel some kind of sense in the middle of June of opportunity, expansion, openings, and growth regarding third house matters relative to you. And you'll take them seriously. These are opportunities and expansion and growth and wealth to do with siblings, especially a younger sibling, but siblings in general, to do with journeys and trips and travel, to do with the possibility of moving and relocating if your floating IC and whole sign houses is in the third house, about the possibility of connecting to a new development or a project in your neighborhood, about learning something. It's a new skill that you could actually use, or teaching someone that new skill if that's something you could do. And also developing your presence in websites in the online world, which can be third house things, as well as digging down with serious growth and expansion and opportunity to a writing project that you're inspired to do. So these are things that are going to be experienced in that time frame about June 19th. But because Saturn's also retrograde, some of this won't be new. You may be going back over something to do with a plan to move, but you never got it off the ground, a connection to a trip you wanted to take, a shorter distance trip, but you never managed to pull it off, or even something to do with trips and travels or involving siblings. But what's really nice about this is Jupiter's not just like, yeah, here's a lucky trip. This is an opportunity. This is an expansion. This is going to open up goodness in your life. For writers, this is ideal because it could be like the opportunity to write something amazing or to get something written, taken on by an agent or something like that. And when Jupiter's moving through your third house, if you're at all working in the online world with marketing and selling and messaging, then Jupiter will grow and expand and amplify that. Now, I can attest to that because I have Jupiter in my third house in the last year. And again, now I'm Aquarius rising, and that has blown up my YouTube channel. So if you have a desire to blow up something in the online world, Jupiter blows it up, and Saturn gives it reliable and enduring results, okay? Like, it's not a one flash in the pan. Saturn's a marathon runner here. So he'll get something started with Jupiter that's gonna go the distance. And technically in February of 2023, Saturn and Jupiter will almost touch again. It's called a reformation. They just about get there and then they pull away. So there's that too. There's like a second pass of this energy next February. It's all happening at 7 degrees. So of course, if your Pisces rising is near 7 degrees or sun and moon, you're going to get most juice from this as well, and not the later degree people. So it's really benefiting you, but all of you feel it, like as a yay Pisces, you all feel it. Then also, but it's really more succinct and exact and perfecting for those people with sun, moon, and rising, let's say between 4 and 8 degrees, 9 degrees of Pisces. Now, also, I want to touch a little bit for everybody on the fact that the nodes of fate, which have been rattling up for you guys, your third house, which I just delineated, and your ninth house of God, truth, wisdom, foreign lands, foreign shores from your birth country, travel, court cases, visas, book publishing, and higher education. That ninth house has been activated by a south node, leaking air, leaking tire up there. Things aren't going so well, but you're expanding in the third as best you can. So that energy has been going through all of 22 to July 23 through your sky. And now what happens is that there's the activation with Saturn's participation in a flow to the nodes of fate that could be quite auspicious in the month of April. Okay, and that will happen from the all of April, but most particularly precise around the middle of April, around the 16th. And so all of a sudden, there's this flowy, juicy vibe going on in April that feels quite auspicious, really luscious energy. And to me, I would say that you could find that things fall into place because you're being asked to make changes, and changes happening with regards to your third house matters. And now there's kind of solidity and reliability and flow from Saturn. And Saturn is in your house. So you're making the sober-minded, realistic, and harder, wise decisions or choices or actions that support something to do with third house. I mean, again, I said if your IC is there, it could be about a move. It's a trip you need to take. It's a sibling thing, that kind of stuff. And anything else I want to say about that? I think that's it. I'm going to be talking more about all of this in individual videos with asteroids and fixed stars. So that's a general vibe of what I have for you, Pisces. And as well, maybe I'll just finish up with the last week of May and the first week of June. I'm a little out of time order here, but Jupiter will be blowing up with energetically blowing things up with the North Node in your third house. There's quite like a kerosene blow up energy, but not necessarily bad. The North Node makes Jupiter's luck luckier, Jupiter's bigness bigger. It expands Jupiter. Jupiter's a benefic, but it can also be intensity. And so there's a lot of intensity going on the last week of May, the first week of June, to do with trips, travel, siblings, books, book publishing, short distance travel, the online world. You could go viral on something that you created online at that point. All right, let me know how that goes. Keep me posted. I love to hear back from you. I reply to all of my comments. And I'm going to go to Aries, but then I'm going to do that little trick that I've developed where I can change the picture. I feel so high tech. I don't even have to hire a video editor to do this. I'm just got it all figured out. Aries. I love how some people say Aries. It's Aries or Aries or Aries, Aries. And if you're still in the live premiere and you've been watching this for a while, don't forget to hit my like button, please. And it helps the channel grow as an algorithmic hack. And I almost want to get this morning and say, hi, I'm Lori Lothy, and I'm an astrologer who sips tea, munches tangerines, moves my body a lot, plays with my hair, talks quickly. And some of you know the joke, right? These are all the stage directions and criticisms I get from people on YouTube who are, I don't know how constructive any of that really is. I move too much. Oh my God. But playing with my hair, sure, why not? Maybe it bothers you. Maybe it annoys you that I play with my hair. But excuse my language, I don't care. No, I have 3 planets in Aries, 4 if I count Athena. So I have a mouth on me, and I'm really, 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 really gnarly when people lob general criticism that's personal and it's not constructive. Like someone said, your mic's not loud enough for me. That's constructive. I looked at my volume settings. I tried to up them for this video. And if that doesn't work, maybe I'll get a new mic. So thank you for that constructive criticism for the person who said the volume wasn't high enough for them. That's helpful. That's really helpful. Another person said, put your mic underneath a tablecloth, which I'm doing because it helps not have that kind of tinny sound. And so I love that kind of feedback, but do not like being told I move too much and it annoys you. Then close your eyes and listen. Like, what the hell is wrong with people? I'm moving my body. Get up and do some yoga for you today. Anyway, now that I got that off my Aries chest, I had to do it because I'm an Aries and I'm in the Aries portion of the reading. So I will no longer continue with that tirade. I hope that was not too annoying for you. Alrighty, so as we go forward, Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. I am one of you with my Sun and Moon, but this is most accurate for the rising sign people. Generally, though, this is a very subtle and very subtle energy. It's your 12th house where Saturn is moving, joining Neptune. A lot of Aries people have had transcendent, mystical, spiritual breakthroughs since 2011. My blog is called theawakeneddreamer.com. Go check it out. I was known as somebody who was considered to be like a spiritual type, a teacher type, because I had 2 massive non-dual spiritual awakenings. One in 2011 and one in 2018. Neptune going through the 11th house is an enlightenment transit. Neptune is the oceanic consciousness, the unconditional love, the higher love, the divine love, the high divine imagination of all of our, God-given capacity to imagine into being that which we desire. So for us, it's been one of those transits. It's very soft, but it's also helping us with addictions. If you have a habit, addiction of any kind, Neptune can help you with that because he will exacerbate it perhaps because he is an addiction and mental health challenge god. So your own mental health challenges and addictions could have been exacerbated since 2011, but now Saturn comes in, and what does Saturn do? Cleans up that act, Oh yes, well maybe Lori can write the book, The Wine Lover's Middle Way, that she's been talking about, because she's finally found the middle way, instead of like, I'm going without wine for 2 months and then I'm drinking wine every day, and then I'm going without wine for 40 days and I'm drinking wine after that every day. I'm trying to find the wine lover's middle way. So that's Saturn. He's coming in. I got a book. I got the domain. He's going to come in and he's going to go, let's find a wine lover's middle way for Lori. Let's get you off your mental health challenge. Let's get you off those drugs if they don't work. Like get off that antidepressant. You don't need it. He'll come in here. He'll bring you sage-like wise people, like spiritual teachers, gurus, guides, with the Neptune thing. People of elderly wisdom, like holders of wisdom, who could come into your world in the next 3 years to really support this spiritual awakening process that you've been undergoing. Saturn is coming into the house of hospitals as well, and then Saturn can represent an elder person. So you may just experience an elder in your life having to encounter hospitalization during this window of time as well. Just saying. It doesn't have to be you, but very rarely is the 12th house you in the hospital. I've seen it though. I've seen it for people. My sister, Pisces rising, was in the hospital for a broken hip during the transit of Saturn through Aquarius in her 12th house. So yeah, it could be that. But it's like, so then be careful. If you make revenue from barter and trade in foreign shores, in other words, if you have offshore income of any kind, because for whatever reason, Saturn can help you make structure and form around how you make money from other countries, whether you're in that country or you're just doing business with people in other countries. Saturn will help structure that. Now, interestingly as well, often we learn things when the third house activates our ninth and our third, and you may be in a learning mode. You may actually go into 3 years in which you're deeply into some kind of study and really diving deep for that learning. When Saturn was moving through my, I'm Aquarius rising. So when Saturn was in Capricorn, moving through my 12th house, I studied Hellenistic astrology. So, and I studied it deep, 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 right? So there you go. Okay, so also, I want to talk about this Neptune, this Pisces connection. I'm going to go more chronological for you guys. First of all, in April, the whole month of April is infused with Saturn in your 12th house in a loving contact to the North Node in your second house. Something to do with money, earnings, and possessions, taking on new form through 12th house ways. Yes, barter and trade from overseas and foreign lands, expanding your income, possessions being acquired by you to do with foreign shores and lands. Income coming from study or learning that you've been undergoing or possibly teaching. New expansion regarding your earnings and vocation is basically that energy in the month of April. For some of you as well, this could involve a Saturnian, stoic, clobbering of some kind of excess food or addiction, like, too much wine, too much cigarettes, too much gluten, too much ice cream. North Node energy in your Aries second house made you more gluttonous around consumption of things that go in your mouth, because the face and the mouth are the second house. And the North Node may have made you really rattled here, like I've talked about, maybe too much wine, no wine, too much wine. And then Saturn's like, okay, let's work this out. Like, let's figure this thing out here. So that's April, clearing that out if that's been an issue for you, to get off of certain ingestions of substances of some sort, and food as well that's not good for you. And then Saturn will move into a time in which you will be connecting with Jupiter. Now, just before Jupiter really gets hooked into Saturn, and this is a money story for most of you, just before that happens, Jupiter at the end of May, beginning of June, will come into contact with the South Node around 3-4 degrees of the sign of Taurus. That's blowing up some very good luck energy in your earnings house. And then Saturn comes in right after around the 19th of the month of June, and consolidates things. He's going to be retrograding, so he's really, really going back and over some old ground, but Saturn is going to consolidate some kind of gains for you financially, in possessions and earnings as well, maybe even involving real estate for reasons I can't go into now. And that energy is activating around the 19th of June, but you can give or take about a week to 2 weeks on either side, because it's a slow moving, exciting time. It's happening at 7 degrees of Taurus and 7 degrees of Pisces. Of course, if you're already into astrology and you have planets in Taurus around 7 or in Pisces around 7, you know that they're going to be involved in the story. That's your personal chart. All right, we're going to keep going to the next sign, which we know is Taurus. And I want to show you my tea in a minute. Are you watching in the live premiere and you have not yet hit the like button? And please do. In a minute, I'll be turning on my little light here And you know how I complain about me doing recordings at the end of the day? Well, that's what I'm doing again. Let me just change the picture. Picture. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. I know a lot of you. You guys are my people. All right, Tauruses. First of all, you have had a lot going on. You know that, right? Because the North Node has been going through your sign, which means eclipses are happening in Taurus ever since all of 2022 to the middle of the summer of 2023, but with the last tail-ending eclipse in October 23. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, as I used to say, and I'm sure that was politically incorrect. That was an old joke from the old comedy routines of the 50s, probably Don Rickles. And long story short, and that will be a reference that's totally generational and nobody else knows what I'm talking about. But there's a vibe here that, you know, with the eclipses moving through your Taurus house of you have been radically changing, reforming and upgrading and shifting and changing your identity. And I kid you not, like it can be all the way to I am straight, I am gay, I am a man, I am a woman, I am whatever, radically freedom, rule breaking, game changing changes of your identity. Okay. And that's depends on your rising sign degree. Because right now, of course, that energy of the eclipses combined with Uranus during this last 2 years is really intense. But the Uranus transit through 2019 to 26 is about the radical change of identity. The North Node is expanding that and making it more intense. 2022, really to the end of 2023. So it's intense. But good news. Two things are good. Of course, Jupiter coming into the house of you is really good. But also Saturn is positive as well. Let's talk about it. Saturn moving into Pisces. Let me show you my blue tea. Pisces is your 11th house of good spirit. This is a lucky and opportune, cosmically rewarding house full of great gains from your career, wishes and wish fulfillment, long-range plans and goals, and favors from friends and allies. Okay, what else is that? You can't go wrong. And Saturn is just going to bring some control here, structure. Possibly, I've seen it look like you're going to disassociate from groups of belonging, clubs and tribes you no longer adhere to, and you may pare down your friendship groups and they may become tighter and smaller than they normally are, or they may be constrained in some way. Now, sometimes it's practical, you know, like if you're a Taurus and you're experiencing this, you might move to another country and you have to start over and you have no friends there, like that kind of thing. So, you know, there's often a reason that your friendships shrink here or your ally groups shrink, but that's okay. It's just a passage. Saturn will help you make real your dreams and goals and visions. This is where Neptune has been since 2011, trying to give you fantastical, highfalutin dreams and goals and visions for your life. Maybe not always so realistic, maybe with rose-colored glasses. And now Saturn comes along and says, let's be real, let's get real. So now you start to formulate not only more realistic dreams, wishes, and goals, but ones that are actually able to take form. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that, including the range of financial gain and perks you can get from your chosen career. Saturn here will give you great gains that are enduring and long lasting, that can go the distance, not just one big swoosh of money, but money coming in a reliable and steady way over time from your career path, from your gains from your career. Now, this is the house of the eldest sibling. Saturn coming here could be hardships for your eldest sibling, the one above you. Or this could be less support from people who used to be your allies, you know? What can you do? Not everything works out in the best possible way. Also, interestingly, what I would say is that if you are at all involved in any kind of movement making, like you've got a movement to champion, the 11th house could be that. You know, I think it was the civil rights guy, Martin Luther King, had a lot of 11th house placements, and Midheaven too, I think. And, you know, he created a whole civil rights movement. So if you wanted to create a movement of any kind, and you've been fantasizing about it since 2011, Saturn comes in and says, let's get this movement off the ground. Let's do this thing. Let's make it real. So that's nice. That's a nice transit for that. Then you will have April as a time in which those eclipses that have been reforming who you are, pulling you away from your marriage partner, away from your audience and business partner, South Node through the seventh, less interested in them, a leaky tire in the marriage, business partner, client, audience part of your chart, a leaky tire in the legal negotiation and contracts part of your chart. Anyway, you're focused on you, growing you, expanding you, all of that good shit. And now this intense eclipse cycle area of the chart gets some support from Saturn. That's going to happen in April as the nodes of fate are trine and sextiled by Saturn. This is going to be all of April, but around the middle of the month, it's the most exact. Then next, Jupiter is going to be going through your house starting on May 16th. Of course, you love that, right? Who wouldn't? Because this is Jupiter going luck for you, opportunity for you, growth and expansion for you, bigger body for you. You could chub out. You could get pregnant under this transit because your body girth expands, but you're magnanimous, generous, philanthropic, positive, hopeful, optimistic, and powerful when Jupiter goes through your house, and lucky. And that starts in the middle of May and lasts a year, but then also Saturn chimes in. And that's going to be kind of interesting because the last week of May and the first week of June, expect some big, exciting developments in your life that you're going to feel like the king or queen of Mount Olympus. You're going to feel super excited and very positive by what's going on with Jupiter in the North Node there in the house of you. And then Saturn follows up around the 19th of June, and he creates, even though he's retrograde, he is going to be forming around the 19th of June a flowing sextile to Jupiter in the house of you. Now, this could be a very specific lucky opportunity from a social group, a friend from the past. Jupiter's retrograde. It's playing out through June 19th, flank it by a couple weeks on either side, but around the 19th is pretty exact. And so you might be thinking about, oh, no friends, no allies, and suddenly somebody from the past comes forward and it connects to the themes of wealth and opportunity or goodness and hope for you, okay? Or a great gain perk coming out of your career house, but it's one that has lasting value. So it's not a one-off, you know? For example, you wrote a book and you sign a contract and it's a major publisher and they want to do multiple editions or they want to do a trilogy out of it, you know? I'm just making stuff up. But this is such a positive time for you because after all that eclipse energy in the house of you, having Jupiter come into your house around May the 16th out of year, if I remember my dates, to May of 24 is going to feel like relief, absolute relief. Alrighty. All right. Thank you, Taurus, for listening. And we're going to continue on to the next sign. And the next sign, I have to get back into my back end and I lost the back end. Where did it go? Eeks. Sorry, I lost the picture part of the back end, what I've been doing with it. Where'd it go? There, got it. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. All right, so in your sky, the Pisces quarter of Saturn's transit, okay, that's what the real story is here, although I keep bringing Jupiter in. We need to talk, all right, about what this is going to mean for you. So for you, you know, your career is really highlighted for the next 3 years. And starting with the Saturn transit in March 7th or so, you'll begin to take a real serious approach to your purpose and career. And sometimes if you've been somebody climbing a mountain for the last 7 or 14 years to reach a mountaintop, especially 14 years, like to achieve a career goal or an objective or height, and that you've been aiming at it, or even a career trajectory, and Saturn comes into your 10th house, you may quit. You may retire out, or you may just go, oh darn, I climbed that hill and I didn't want to die on it. I'm not sure I climbed the right hill. I see a lot of times Saturn in the 10th house looking like people stepping down from the top of the mountain to go in a new direction. The other thing that can happen with Saturn moving through your 10th house is you could become quite empowered to be the expert authority or master, or rise to new levels of authority. Like in a corporate hierarchy, you're now hired to be the director or somebody in charge, and a new level of bossdom for you, being the boss. Saturn is with Neptune, and you've been making dreams and visions around your career, or confusion and illusion and fog about your purpose and career in the world. And then now Saturn comes and gives you some really good realistic ideas about what the heck you should do. And you might say, yeah, that sounds great, Saturn, let's do it this way. So there's a lot of consolidation of longer goals and dreams around your career and putting them into form. I mean, but imagine you were like a film director, and Neptune's going through your 10th house of career. That would be Neptune, film, director, power. And now you get like up-leveled, right? Like you're the head of the division at a what do you call it? Like film production company or something. So it's like, it depends on your own sky, of course, but things like that. Saturn will make you work hard in your career if you're going to stick with that career and not just bail on it eventually. Then you'll be just hardworking and really grinding, all right? And then finally, people in bosses and authority figures can feel either burdensome or helpful to you as Saturn goes through that part of your chart. That is really too bright. So I thought I'd give it a try, though. I guess it's not dark enough for that light yet. Oh my God. And it's like not quite yet. All right. And anyway, anything else I want to tell you? And okay, so that's the themes. Those are the broad themes of this transit. Now, there's many other cool things happening. In April, the nodes of fate, where the eclipses have been happening, get loved up by Saturn, and the nodes of fate and eclipses are helping you get rid of your addictions and self-defeating habits, illnesses, and problems with your health. And that's been something that Saturn is trying to do, with now collaborating with the nodes of fate during the month of April, with the epicenter around the 16th. Also, if you've had any challenges with pets, debts and debt matters, holding too much debt, any challenges with leases or tenancy arrangements, and this is also going to begin to smooth out with support from structural Saturn during this month of April. And then you have a lot of love and flow, of course, from Lord Saturn to your 12th house. Now, this could really be good for anything to do with getting rid of anything to do with people, the ending in a flowing way of situations to do with mental health, hospitals, and illnesses or addictions, okay? And I mean, not even you in a hospital, somebody you know, and that could be like ending that time of somebody's hospitalization during the month of April. Or Saturn could be lending some career structure and support to how you're generating revenue from offshore sources and investments, and or business transactions from foreign countries. So that is something that's expanding and opening up in a good way in April for you. And then later on, I want you to be aware that Jupiter moving through Taurus starting mid-May, add a year, is going to expand your spiritual life, your revenue from foreign shores and lands, your ability to learn something that you really want to learn, especially if it's esoteric, and your ability to have expansive trips and adventures to foreign lands, especially if it involves spirituality, gurus, ashrams, and spiritual retreats. And Jupiter doing this, okay, will hit the North Node for a bounty of luck in the last week of May, the first week of June, an expansion of a golden travel opportunity, a golden opportunity for spiritual advancement, a golden opportunity for financial gain from a foreign land. And then Saturn comes in to consolidate that story and give it more form and structure and discipline and good long-lasting results around the 19th of June. When Saturn does this, he's retrograde. Somebody from your past and your career path, some expert authority that you've known in the past may step in and be supporting whatever you're up to when it comes to this area of fruiting positive and wealthy opportunities and expanding opportunities in that 12th house. And even though I say it's the 19th, it's also going to be flanked by a week or two on either side. So June looks amazing for you with the support of Jupiter in your 12th house and Saturn in your 10th, all right? Because Saturn and Jupiter are doing this little dance around 7 degrees. Of course, if your Gemini sun, moon, and rising is in the first 10 degrees, you get more oomph out of it, but all of you Geminis do feel it, okay? It's not just for the small first 10 degree people. Let's try that. I'm sort of like blinded by the light. I don't think so. Oh, too bright. It's like, I just can't. We'll just go back to the grainy normal lighting. All right, for now. All right, continuing. Let's keep going. I don't care anymore if I talk to you guys in a dark room with a flashlight under my chin. That's what I'm just going to say to myself. It could be quite fun. Getting to the next sign, which is Cancer. If you're still listening in the chat room, and you want to connect, we started with Pisces, by the way, so you're not last this time. Please, please, please hit my like button, make comments, I respond, follow me, hit the notifications bell, check out my courses, classes, and everything in the description box. I'm always puzzled when someone emails me and goes, do you do readings? Like, I don't think people understand there's a whole description box under every YouTube video for every YouTube provider that gives you everything you need to know. All my assets, all my classes, all my stuff is all in the description box. Alrighty. Hit the like button if you're in the live premiere. I appreciate you guys, all of my regulars. You know who you are, the Feral Writer, One Wise Lady, and LA Taylor. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're okay. And Misbehaving, you've been ill. I hope you're feeling better in Scotland. And all of my regulars, Stephen the Jupiterian, what a sweetie you are. And Mercury with the Message, and Was somebody new lately I was really interested in. What was that handle? Anyway, I like you guys. You're really fun to hang with in the chat. I appreciate you so, so much. Kelly K, of course. 2 thumbs up for you. All right, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. Let's get rolling. First of all, water to water, water to water, water to water. You're a water sign. Pisces is a water sign. Saturn's trining you. It's water to water. What does that mean? It's easy. It's flowing. Trines are the nature of Jupiter. They're lucky. They're expansive. They're generous. This is good. You're not going to mind this at all. Jupiter, Saturn in Pisces, moving through your 9th house of God, book publishing, foreign lands and shores, legal and court cases, visas, third marriages, the idea of father figures, and also Lakshmi, wealth and luck. All of this is happening in this 9th house. It's also a house connected to your deeper purpose. It's a Kama house. You're going to find that purpose, dharma, luck, wealth, father figure, foreign lands gets Saturnianized. Well, structure, form, and discipline. Anyone? Book publishing house? Yeah, get the chapters in order, get the darn thing written, send it to a publisher. Saturn will help you with that. In fact, he'll bring you a traditional publisher. You don't need to self-publish. You want to go back to school, academia, Saturn would help you do that and work hard to do the academic studies, and also perhaps even help find you a prestigious institution to study in. You've had Neptune moving through your 9th house since 2011. Therefore, you have been going through a lot of fantastical, mystical, magical dreams about what you want to do in foreign lands, book publishing, religion, God, truth, wisdom, visas, and court matters. And now Saturn brings the realism home so that you get results here. You make the fantastical, imaginary, and dreamy into reality. This is a luck house, and so this can be Saturn trying to engineer luck, especially when he connects with Jupiter. So we'll talk about that next. When you have the movement of Jupiter starting in the middle of May through the sign of Taurus, it's going to be about time is auguring in a year of great gains in your career. I mean great gains in your career. I mean ka-ching, ka-ching, promotions, raises, greater, more money than you've made ever, like you're up leveling. And people in high places want to help you, and favors from friends, and hopes, dreams, and wishes not only coming true, but you're beginning to wish big, big dream big, big dreams. I have a dream, you're going there. Go big or go home in your dreams. You're going there now. You're opening that up. Okay. Jupiter in your Taurus house for a year can also bring you friends that are very powerful, are very wealthy as well, and very generous toward you. Okay. Now, Saturn in your 9th house, before he even talks with Jupiter, loves up the north and south node. The north node has been expanding your gains in your career. Tell me it's not true. Don't you think you've been expanding your career gains and getting support from eldest sibling, friends and relatives, friends and allies? I bet you have, ever since at least the beginning of this path of the north node through Taurus in January 22, ending in July of 23. So you're capitalizing on already getting some lift in that part of your sky, and then Jupiter is in that part of your sky for a year starting in May, continuing the show, making it good. The love up between Saturn and the North Node is the month of April. The way it can look is you're going to find that you experience some kind of, first of all, destined connection to an expert authority figure who's a spiritual mentor or an educating teacher type person for you. A destined expansion of great gains because of something you're learning or teaching, or because of something you've done because you traveled to a foreign country as well, or something to do with positive court cases giving you greater financial gain in some way that feels like a penny from heaven or a reward. Yeah, in April, especially around April 16th, but the whole month of April. And then you're going to have a touchdown from Saturn to Jupiter at 7 degrees of each of those signs of Pisces and the sign of Taurus. Therefore, of course, if you're at Cancer rising in the first 10 degrees, you get more wind from this than the everyday person, but all Cancers will feel it. And that's going to look like something to do with opportunity knocking in your 11th house. Someone in power has a friend or a favor thingy to offer you something, opens up a trip to a foreign land, a legal outcome that's in your behalf, something to do with goodness and luck around money and purpose. These are things that are looking like they're happening in June. The epicenter is June 19th, but you can flank it by up to 2 weeks on either side. Just before that happens, the North Node combines forces with Jupiter for some serious end of May, beginning of June, lucky breaks. massive great gains in your career, the amplification of some of your dreams, hopes, and wishes, and some really spectacular successes with or because of an eldest sibling, okay? And all I can say is it looks really good on you because water to water, right? The water Saturn is flowing to you. A lot of you might study a religious tradition, find a spiritual path, a devotional path. Pisces likes devotional bhakti paths more than knowledge paths. But you might find you get into chanting mantras or kirtan or devotional practices or a new yoga practice, something traditional but also mystical, like Kabbalah, Sufism, contemplative, mystical Christianity. Those kinds of things could come upon you over the next 3 years as well. Because some of you look like you're going to get a guru out of this or some new spiritual teaching or teacher over the next 3 years. Let's continue. Oh, book publishing. I have a Cancer friend, Cancer Rising, which just finished her memoir. Of course, this is good for form and structure. I think I said at the beginning, an opportunity around the book publishing industry. Go for a real publisher if you're a Cancer Rising with this transit, rather than try to do it all by yourself. All right. Leos. Okay. Sun, moon, but most always accurate. I keep saying this. Rising sign. And if you're in the premiere and you haven't hit my like button and you want to hit my like button, please do so. Just to help my channel grow. It really makes a huge difference. Leo, this is a very subtle place, okay, that you're experiencing this transit. It's your 8th house. Now, it's subtle and not subtle because it's money that doesn't belong to you because it's unearned by you. So you usually get the money of the 8th house through inheritances, spousal support, shared resource with the business or spouse, things to do with back taxes, inheritances, insurance, investments in the stock market. It's how money can make money for you, though. So that's not a bad thing. When Saturn moves through the 8th house, he brings you a more realistic approach to those matters. And you also, some of your fantastical, dreamy, spacey, Neptunian illusion. And honestly, some of you may have been like totally taken to the cleaners here if you follow Neptune too much, like, oh yes, this is too good to be true, that if I buy this particular stock, it's going to make me rich, get rich quick. Neptunian dreams may have happened to you or your spouse. It says 2011. But now Saturn comes in and makes it very realistic, very serious too. It's a good time to get an accountant or an expert authority to help you with your finances. It's a good time to look at your money with a realistic square look of what is going to be a longer strategy, a long game for financial success in that kind of shared money story, the chunky money house. And then on top of that, the energy of Saturn here, if you are at all interested in tarot, occult mystery, magic, then Saturn could help you make that more realistic in your life. You may have learned about it, studied it, and then now you're going to say, well, you're going to use this stuff. You're going to use it somehow. You're going to parlay it into outcomes that are realistic and tangible for your life. All right, so then you may find as well that there is a suppression and difficulty and hardship in dividing assets with a spouse if there's a divorce, or you may find that there's just a sense of anxiety and worry about your stock investments, 401k, and all of those types of things. Definitely don't try to cheat the tax man with Saturn going through your 8th house. You won't get away with it. That's the IRS coming in to haunt you. So you do have to be really careful as a Leo rising sun and moon about that. Finally, the passing of an elder in the family sometimes is Saturn in the 8th house leading to an inheritance. Not always, just sometimes over the next 3 years. And then now I want to talk about the short term. April, Saturn will love up the North Node as it's been going through your 10th house and saber rattling change through your career and purpose house all through 22 into the halfway through 23 mark. Now, the North Node, South Node around 3 degrees of Taurus and 3 degrees of Scorpio are being activated in a flowing harmonious way from Saturn in the 8th house. This forms a really powerful energy called a wedge. Something about going deep, using your mystical powers, connecting to your savings money and money from inheritance or money from your spouse shared with you, etc., can fortify you to pop into more power and certainty and amplification in your chosen field of career and work, but also may help you move from a home that you no longer want to live in. Buy or sell a home, get an ideal mortgage, because mortgages belong to the 8th house. Then on top of that, as we move forward into the month of June, then what happens then is that Saturn will, first of all, Jupiter will move into your 10th house of career and reputation and will expand that for you, middle of May to the middle of May 24. Yay you. Then on top of that, now Jupiter coming into that part of your sky will connect with the North Node, which means luck on steroids, extra special, large, big, ambitious, exciting intensity in your career house happening in the last week of May, the first week of June. And then Saturn follows through around June 19th, although you feel that energy of him coming upon you all of June to stick the landing. So some financial great gains of possibility, not great gains, but just financial good gains coming to you through 10th house matters of career and reputation, but also supporting the possibility of some new developments regarding your home, including the possibility of a move. This is especially true if your IC is in the 4th house of your chart in the floating IC of whole sign houses. All right. I think that's it. Certainly bosses and people in high places when Jupiter's in your 10th house will help you out. Or you may be promoted to the top position in any kind of hierarchical structure. And this could all happen very suddenly, end of May, beginning of June, throughout the month of June. This will impact your finances in a very positive way, especially in chunky money, which can mean you get a severance package, a buyout, a chance to buy stock options in a company. You get a one-time payment, a bonus payment, stuff like that coming at you. I think it looks really good. I'm happy for you. So keeping on. I have my notifications off. I'm not sure what that sound is, but if it happens again, I'll do something about it. And yeah, I apologize for that dinging. My daughter's a Virgo rising. My best friend's a Virgo rising. My son's a Virgo. My son is a Virgo sun. So yes, I always tell you guys I have a bunch of Virgos all around me. I can't count them. How do you count them? They're just everywhere. And so let's get going. Virgo sun, moon, and Virgo rising especially. All right, always especially. Well, you know, this is very much an intense story about your significant marriage partner stories. Now, when I say marriage, you're living with someone, you've been committed together for a long time, monogamous, committed love. This is a story that is about creating a foundation as Saturn goes through Pisces until 1996. If an existing love relationship is wobbly, or if it has not gotten to the next stage of what it needs to do, it's almost like the arranged marriage though. Saturn here will be like, okay, like we're going to be practical and realistic, and we're going to betroth each other to each other because it's better for our finances. It's almost like the couple who gets married for the visa, for the, you know, for the tax deductions or something. So you have to be careful that if this relationship you're in, if you're in one, consolidating isn't made for Saturnian reasons that are almost because it's almost like the way you should do it, not the way you want to. Keep that in mind. Saturn here can often end a relationship. Saturn moving through the 7th house for 3 years can end an existing love relationship. My first marriage of 20 years ended during that transit. Saturn here can also activate a relationship with somebody much older, at least 6 or 7 years older. That also happened when Saturn was moving through my 7th house. So it's a 3-year transit. So the marriage ended, and along came the older gentleman that I dated for 2 years. So yes. Now, Saturn coming through here is also really good at helping you attract Saturnian people to your life, including through the arc of your clients, audience, and others. Let me see if that's the stupid mail function that's doing that. I'm going to quit the mail. It's probably what it is. Yeah, sorry about that. And so you may find then that you are attracting like expert authorities and people of great sort of bossy power into your life, and that your clients become more old people, or you're attending to the geriatric audience or something. Legal contracts can cause hardship. You have to be careful here. I mean, Saturn will be like, okay, we got to get this legal document signed for sure. Let's get it done. Because Neptune's for a lot of Virgo rising, starting in 2011. You got involved in relationships with people with mental health challenges or addictions, or you had dreamy rose-colored glasses because you're obfuscating, or they were obfuscating who they really were. Around 2018-19, though, things began to shift as Neptune moved past the midpoint of Pisces. And you may now be looking at more of a soulmate story, like looking for your divine complement, your true love, your twin flame, your soulmate. Saturn is like really realistic. He goes, oh, soulmate, schmoulmate, you know, twin flame, slim flame, you know, fuck, screw that shit. He's like, let's get serious, really. I mean, like, what's love about? Love is about the daily grind and like the commitments and the legal contracts and the vows and the oaths and the logical, logistical universal nature of reality, there is a conflict between Neptune and Saturn when it comes to that kind of love. And so now it's going to be much more serious. You're just going to not rely on fantastical ideas of love, and you're going to want to get more serious about it. An example would be, I'm going to marry you because we've been together for 10 years and damn it, I want to have better tax deduction, or we want to have kids and it's better for marriage. There's a lot of like practical ways that love turns into a practical formula with this transit. Or as I said, kiboshes the relationship because it's reached its end point. Kronos, Grim Reaper is reaping in the marriage house. I'm not worrying you, but you would know this. It's not like I'm telling you something you don't know. I'm not saying your happy marriage is going to fall apart. You'd already know that it's not going well if Saturn's going through your marriage house, okay? Then this applies to business partners. There could be hardship with business partners, or there could be new, older business partners, more established, coming into your life. And then finally, let's move to the North Node, South Node. You've been under the renovation theme of North Node in your 9th house of academics, foreign lands, dharma and purpose, father figures, and also things to do with courts and legal matters and book publishing. And as these North Nodes has been propelling you through there, like my daughter went to some foreign land trips, right? But also she's been in academics and she's finishing university and she's changing up her schedule and she's going through a big deal of change around everything. She changed schools, goodness gracious, with this North Node eclipse cycle. So you could find yourself feeling that the change has been rattling you in this 9th house area. And there's been a pull away from the 3rd house of local neighborhood, childhood friends and stuff like that, siblings. And then all of a sudden, Saturn's going to love it up in April. So in April, there's a sort of, what a relief, that feels much better. Okay, that's all I can say. It feels like, oh, what a relief. That feels so much better. Saturn is going to apply a lovely flow. And it could be like a court matter coming to a great legal outcome on your behalf. It could be things to do with consolidation of your relationship with your partner in a legal way, or a trip with a partner to a foreign land in the month of April that's going to help heal the relationship, a book contract for book publishing, if that's something you're up to, Virgo, coming your way in the month of April. And then later on, there's a lot of excitement as Jupiter enters your higher education house, or spiritual temples house and religion. So certainly starting in the middle of May of this year to next year, you could get a guru, a religious spiritual teacher, or the professor will love you up, or you get promoted as a professor to a new level of power, or you're just going to find that court matters go your way and you win and succeed, or that your foreign land travels and trips become quite opportune. So all of this is, and the book publishing industry says, yes, we want you and we're going to put you on the bestseller list. So all of that is happening with Jupiter here. But before that happens, like before the Saturn gets involved in that, there's this time at the end of May, last week of May, beginning of June, where there's Saturn and the North Node combining around 3 degrees of Taurus. It's going to excite and intensify luck in the 9th house matters. This is the 3rd marriage. If you're on your 3rd marriage, that also gets a glow up. And then what happens next is that then in comes Saturn, even though he's just turned retrograde, he's pivoted. He's going to, at the 19th of the month of June, from 7 degrees of the sign of your marriage house, connect with Jupiter of opportunity in your 9th house, and they're going to do something for you. Again, legal contracts, from people from your past, former marriage partners or partners coming back from the past. Connect some dots there. Things to do with matters that are court cases and legal documents should go really well. But again, you might have to go backwards to go forwards, but Saturn is getting in on the show. So pay attention to that. And if you want to apply for college or university because you're young, of course, this looks really good on getting acceptances or getting things off the ground during the entirety of June, actually, or even back in April. So go for that as well. Keep it on. I got to keep going. I hope my mic volume is okay for you guys this time. I'm going to up level to something fancy, but for now, there's a dog howling outside. Did you hear that? If you're in my live premiere and you have not hit my like button, then why not? Please do. We're moving on to Libra, and I'm looking to move the picture for you guys. Give me a sec. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. And we did start with Pisces, I'm reminding you guys. So we'll be finishing up a little early here. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. I need more tea. It's blue pea flowers or something. Chamomile, lavender. So Libra, you have Saturn on March the 7th, moving into the sign of Pisces. It's in your 6th house of sickness, and it's in your house of debts and pets and tenancies. It's in your house of work that you do, especially the day-to-day, the job or the workplace, colleagues, employers, colleagues, coworker space. Now, in that place, Saturn coming in could mean a new boss is showing up at work. That's all it could be. For 3 years, you got a new boss, or you become the new boss, or that work feels hard and you grind. You grind, okay? The Virgos have had that before you. They were grinding. It was hard. Also, you have to be careful. Your health can suffer here. Saturn can bring on karmatic illnesses. I can't pretend it doesn't happen. My daughter went through quite a few. Even my best friend had something with her health that she's never expected. So you really will find that you could have to deal with health matters, but you'll usually find a solution, okay, and of a time, a place, and a season, and a reason, and they will pass when Saturn leaves 3 years from now. And of course, it doesn't mean you have health challenges for the whole 3 years, okay? Also, you could get very effective, efficient, disciplined, structured, and focused in your work. So instead of saying grinding, you're just down to get it all done in a very auspicious and focused way. That's all. Saturn will help you manage debt, get it contained, cut it back, restrict your credit and lending and debt-related stuff. Saturn could mean an elderly pet passing during this transit. Saturn can also, in your 6th house, bring you an elderly pet, like where you go and you get a dog from, or a kennel or something, a small animal from a kennel, or like, you know what I mean, like a rescue animal. And finally, Saturn here could also maybe help you with leasing property, like to rent a home or office space, or to rent one out to other people. All right, so that's the things that Saturn might do in your 6th house. And then it's the house of dating. You might date an older person during the 3 years ahead. Then what'll happen next, you can tell I'm running out of steam here. I just want to go have a glass of wine. I just want to go down to the little store and get a nice glass of wine to go with my Greek salad I'm having for dinner. So continuing Libra. See, Libra is a pleasure-seeking Venus ruled sign, so I'm thinking about wine. Okay, no wine in my house, that's all. So then what's going to happen that I want to focus on for you is that in April, especially in the middle of the month, but the whole month of April, the eclipse energies that have been moving through your chart through the Taurus and the Scorpio axis have been activating a lot of focus on your finances, particularly Libra, legacy wealth, inheritance wealth, family wealth, money you share with your spouse or business partner, money from taxes, rebates, insurance, money from your investment portfolio. So you've been thinking money from real estate and selling and buying of property. You've been thinking a lot about this stuff, even mortgages. And it's been on your mind and you've been doing the thing and it's been expanding there for you, which is good. But that's been a story that's been going on all of 2022 until the middle of 23. And now at the very tail end of that, Lord Saturn from your 6th house loves up the North Node in your 8th. The North Node here could have expanded your debt, more loans, more credit, more mortgages, right? Bigger ones, jumbo mortgages. But I do think that Lord Saturn will contain that. So a refinance is very possible, or constriction or elimination or restructuring of debt and money situations is possible in a positive way from Saturn in the month of April. Or negotiations around salary connected to longer term retirement plans that you may have. Then what will happen next is that you're going to have Jupiter moving into your 8th house, and then you can stop worrying about your longer term money stories, because this is like, oh my God, inheritance time, or windfalls from who knows where, unearned money coming to you in chunks, chunky money, big sized unearned chunks of money, and Jupiter coming into your 8th house, even giant tax rebates because you paid too much. Jupiter comes into or they change the tax laws and they owe you money. Jupiter comes into assurance payouts, winning the insurance payout. So Jupiter comes into here. In the middle of May, we'll be here for a year. And then what will happen is at the end of May and the beginning of June, he collides with the North Node. And this is a big expansion of finances from the 8th house time frame. And Jupiter consolidates the gains around the month of June, particularly the 19th, as he stations retrograde. And in that moment, we'll look over to Jupiter and form a perfect sextile at 7 degrees. Well, certainly this looks really good on you. This is some kind of lucky break financially with a Jupiter event and a north node, then Saturn comes along and gives it new reliable form and structure. Could be leasing the perfect property, getting the perfect pet, financing something, refinancing something, getting the inheritance money due you, recovering from a sickness problem, and also doing that through occult magic and mystery 8th house techniques, something like that. So I can't say much more. I just think that it's going to be really good for your money in general because of the Jupiter transit. Jupiter in the 8th house just is good for your chunky money. All right. I'm trying to remember what happened to the last time Jupiter went through my 8th house, because it could have been when I sold a property and made a lot of money on it and doubled my money. I believe that's what happened. 90% sure that's what happened. Yeah, back in that time frame. Give me a minute. I'm losing the light, but I think I can fix it. My laptop power is down and I'm darker than I should be. There we go. All right, continuing. That's it. That's all I have to say to you. Good luck with that. It's all about the money and the earnings and the work and the debt and all of the stuff I covered already. Got to roll because I'm even losing battery power. This might be a 2-hour video and I didn't realize it was going to be that long. But what the heck, you know? It is what it is. I'm just looking for the background to change it up. And of course, now I'm looking and I can't find it. If you're in the live premiere and you have yet to hit the like button and you are enjoying my content, obviously don't pretend you like it, but like it also just being like, hey, it's a tip. Thanks for being here. You know, I'm going to give you some support, cheer you on, and maybe even just help the channel grow, which is what that like button does. So I'm not asking you to sell your soul, just hit the like button. It's one click of your finger. All right, Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. If you don't feel like you need a break from that eclipse cycle, there's something wrong with you. South node eclipses depleting you, making you focus on your marriage partner and business partners and audience and clients at the expense of yourself, feeling like you've emptied out, feeling depleted. This all started all of 22 into halfway through 23, but deeply spiritualizing you, getting you to release, let go, let God, and surrender. This eclipse cycle only happens every 18, 19 years, so it won't happen for a while, but you're just at the tail end of it. And along comes Saturn and Jupiter to tell some new stories. Saturn is in water. Yes, he's in a water sign. What does that mean? It means that you're going to be receiving a lot of flow from Lord Saturn, water to water, water to water. I don't think you're going to mind that flow. It's going to feel good on you. And so when Saturn is moving through your 5th house, which is a money luck house, which is a karma house, it has to do with purpose, which is a place of joy and a place of creativity, a few thoughts. When Saturn moves through your 5th house, which is 3 years, and I hope you listen to the beginning of the video, March of this year to February 2026, you're going to find that you can give form and structure to your creative projects and your independent business enterprise. No longer do you have songs on a dusty shelf, books and manuscripts you never sent to publishers or agents or stuff like that. This is you completely activating with structure and form your creative endeavors. And you could really see yourself working hard to create significant outcomes. That was scary with your creativity. This is not a good time or a good transit to think that you can play all the time. In fact, you won't. Saturn makes you kind of like, being frivolous and playful and just having random sex and like full on, rave parties and getting lost in debauchery. Not going to happen with Saturn here. Okay. I mean, Pisces does like its drugs, sex and rock and roll sometimes, especially the drugs part, but Saturn is kiboshing that. So you're going to be way more serious and less frivolous around fun. Saturn here could definitely make raising your children feel like a difficult chore. And if you're trying to have children here, it may not be the best time. Saturn may be restricting and constraining fertility or the idea of children at this juncture. Romance can feel hard and your sex life may feel dry and arid. But the upside is your creativity becomes form, your independent business is structured and off to the races, and you are more mature in how you approach life's pleasures and joys. And so this could be a very moderating influence in excesses of pleasure. Joy becomes solid. It's not frivolous with Saturn here. There's that depth of joy that's really deep as opposed to just a temporary pleasure. And as this transit is happening of Saturn through here for the next 3 years, he's also helping Neptune, the god of imagination, storytelling, music, and all kinds of art, really, really solidify that stuff into some tangible, structured form and maybe some long-lasting success. Okay, next, the North Node that's been going through the house of your marriage partner, business partner, audience, and clients and others. And of course, the South Node from you will receive a trine, sextile, love up, wedge formation from Saturn around 3 degrees of all of these signs around the whole month of April. And so there's something really flowing and easy and wonderful, peaking around April 16th, but the whole month that says, at last, this whole rock and roll of your energies being rattled around in your marriage, relationship, legal contracts, client, self, health, self-worth, everything about yourself, the letting go, let God stuff, all of that is now coming to some kind of solid conclusion. It's kind of like the moral of the story is, says Saturn. And it really is anchoring the moral of the story in the house of vitality, joy, inspiration, enthusiasm. So, an example could be that your partner couldn't get pregnant and wants to get pregnant, and Saturn says, well, okay, we'll do it here. Or it could be that your romance has felt beleaguered because your partner's been off the rails, and that's the North Node in your 7th house, and your partner's like a headless snake or a chicken with the head off or something like that, and Saturn calms everything down. In the romance, sex, and love life, and calms down the nodes. It's almost like a pacifier of the intensity of the nodes to create a more solid outcome. And then you'll have the experience of Jupiter moving into Taurus, which is going to happen for 1 year. That's going to be your marriage house. And that will mean dating, and now we're moving in, we're getting engaged, we're getting married. I mean, it's going to up-level any existing relationship. Very, very rarely Jupiter will exit your relationship and quit the relationship if it's too. He brings blessed endings. So if this relationship shouldn't happen, if it's the wrong person for you, Jupiter can end it. But mostly he wants to up-level, expand, and grow it. That's going to be, the middle of May of this year to the middle of May of 24. Then as Jupiter moves through that part of your sky, the last week of May, the first week of June, he meets with, of all people, the North Node, that Rahu, that maybe your partner's lost their head, or, your business partners are off the rails, or your clients are really troublesome. And all of a sudden, there's something good trying to happen here. Okay, Jupiter North Node expands the luck. Your partner could have major luck, business or love. You could have a major breakthrough with the clients or audience person in your story. Legal contract, luckiest legal contract of your life. Kaboom! Jupiter exalts your house of book publishing. You get a book publishing deal. Jupiter exalts your house of foreign lands. Golden opportunity to travel to a foreign land. Things like that. And this is happening for you the last week of June, the first week of May. Last week of May, the first week of June, and then Saturn consolidates everything around June the 19th, but the whole month of June, as Saturn just turned retrograde, will constellate into a sextile with Jupiter, which is a lucky and opportune and flowing aspect pattern, and that energy of that constellation of energies between Saturn in the romance, vitality, love, and pleasure house, and and Jupiter in your 7th house, good news around fertility, lucky breaks around positive developments around romance, positive developments around a creative project and finding an audience or marketplace for it, or a legal contract around a creative project, or something really good to do with money, luck, and windfalls, although Saturn doesn't tend to bring them on, I have to say, but he is activating a Jupiter in your 7th house. So maybe there's some money luck coming through that part of your sky in the month of June. When I say June 19th, you want to sort of bracket it, a couple weeks on either side. Alrighty. I hope you're looking forward to that. You guys need the relief. You've been under that eclipse energy for so long. And I know you're ready to let go of that intensity in the middle of July once and for all. You know what I mean? Like, I did it. Now it's your turn. All right. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising. I've got Sag and Aquarius and Cap. Okay. 3 more. I'm going to go close the window. I opened the window because I was hot, and now I'm freezing. Like, I can't believe it. Hang in there. Okay, it's definitely cold out there. So the very fact that I thought that I needed to do that to begin with is crazy. Oh, yes, I'm moving. Yes, I'm moving. Yeah, I'm moving. I'm moving my body. And I'm distracting you from the story because I went to close my window. You know who you are. All righty, moving on to Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Let me play with my hair and drink some tea. I don't have a tangerine, but oh well. This is an inside joke for my regulars, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, no worries. Okay. Yeah. Whew, I'm getting punchy, as you can tell. So I'm not drinking alcohol. This is just me at the end of a long work day doing a video for you guys, because it's already 5:30 here in Vancouver, Canada, and it's getting really dark out there. Okay, on February 9th, And my Patreon community gets this ahead of time, 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, sometimes even a month or 2 months before you guys on the longer videos. They always get this content first without any ads. If you want to join Patreon for $5 a month, go check my description box. And that gives you every content, 2 monthly VIP Zoom meetings and stuff with me a month or whatever, a bunch of perks, discount codes on my classes. Patreon's where it's at. Okay. So let's go to Sagittarius. Sagittarius, you guys, sun, moon, but especially rising sign, always especially rising sign, okay? Not to sound like a broken record, but what the heck? First of all, Jupiter's your lord. So we're going to talk a lot about Jupiter in this story because he's going to hook up with Saturn. But the beginning of the story is Saturn. Saturn is moving through the sign of, I might lose my battery, but keep going. Saturn is moving through the sign of Pisces, right, which is your 4th house of home and property, real estate, your domestic private life at home, what you do in your private life in your home. Okay, so it's that vibe. It's the house of your mother. It's a house. Sometimes it involves legacy wealth, especially around property and real estate. This is where Saturn is, and Saturn is just entering there. On March 7th, will be there for 3 years. Can be hardship in the home. An elderly person comes to live in your home. You caretake an elder in your home. It can also be just feeling home is hard. There's hardship in the home. Home is alone. You spend time alone at home alone. You may also feel with Saturn here that things to do with property, selling and buying and renting and leasing feels hard. That doesn't feel easy. There's no doubt about it. I have no idea what that sound is. I have my notifications off. I'm on Do Not Disturb. I don't think I can quit any more apps. I don't have any more apps on. So we'll just go with it. Now, in this narrative, I mean, it sounds so bad, but it's not really. Okay. I mean, with Saturn in the bottom of the sky, it could help you find your forever home because Neptune's here and you've been looking for a dream home since 2011, probably near the water. If you could have your druthers, some kind of water body. And now Saturn says, okay, let's do it. Let's build a new home. Saturn's construction. Let's build a new home, or let's find a new home for you that's solid and lasting, will be a real foundation for several years, at least 7 minimum to 14. So Saturn can help you find that new home here. Okay. And then when Saturn's moving through this part of your sky, starting in April, he'll love up the North Node where the eclipses have been pushing through the house of sickness, through the house of debt, maybe expanding your debt, pushing energetically through your house of dating and pets and leases and rentals and work drudgery and duty. Okay, all of that. So the North Node's expanded that for you all of 22 to the midpoint of July of 23. That's been a story that you've been living under of eclipse energies and North Node energies in your 6th house. It could be very disruptive around relationships with pets, around things to do with your health and sickness as well. But then good news, especially addictions and self-undoing. But then the good news is Jupiter is going to move into that part of your sky, into your 6th house in the middle of May, and bless that. Now, while Jupiter here can really help you with getting the ideal pet, the ideal lease, the ideal rental, the exciting and happy, prosperous dating relationship, things to do with the work being better, you get promoted to the head honcho, the boss loves you, your work feels joyful, expansive, and you're generating wealth. All of that can happen, and your health can improve as well. But then a little bit before that, in this narrative, in April, Saturn and the North Node, around 3 degrees and 3 degrees of Pisces Taurus, will connect in a sextile. That's going to happen all through April, but it'll be most intense in the middle. This is a really sweet spot for you. It's like you could rent the perfect home. You could rent out a home. You get the perfect pet. You could go on a perfect date with somebody close to home. You could find yourself eliminating a debt to do with buying and selling property and real estate or inheritance monies. All of those things are happening. North Node, Saturn, consolidation around the story of those eclipses. Then the last week of May, the first week of June, Jupiter moving now through your 6th house will meet with the North Node, which is like kind of a luck blow up of some kind to do with pets, tenants, leases, leasing, work routines, health, all those 6th house things. Kaboom! Very exciting time. And Saturn finishes strong, creating a sextile on the 19th of June, give or take 2 weeks on either side, to consolidate the gains. I don't know what to make of it. It can be a wage increase, an earnings salary increase, a new level of power in the workspace, rising to new levels of authority. It could be some situation to do as well with pets, leases, and rentals, as well as debts. But it's positive. and it's consolidating things. So you could consolidate a debt, reduce a debt as well. Well, Jupiter does blow things up. Saturn is holding him back. And so it's kind of like, well, Jupiter could say, let's take out another mortgage, second mortgage, third mortgage, or shit like that. Then Saturn's going like, let's be realistic here. Let's find the middle ground between that and that. So those kinds of things are very prominent for you during this window of time. And then I'd say to you, in general, having the North Node, South Node axis finally leave you alone in the 12th, 6th house. If you haven't gotten rid of an addiction yet, or your own psychological baggage and self-defeating habits and patterns, if you haven't dumped that shit yet, this is your last chance. Okay, you've got until the middle of July. So get ready for that. Okay, get ready for that. But I'm saying that with Jupiter coming into your 6th house, those themes I just mentioned, things should be okay. It's bonifying it. You will finally get over your addictions. You will finally secure the perfect loan. Well, that's not going to work. I'm blinded. I almost would put on that like a paper towel or something so that I don't blind myself with that light. It's a dark room and that's a little teeny light. That was bad. All right, thanks, Sagittarius. Let's keep going. I don't think I can talk much longer. If this is a 2-hour video, I wouldn't be surprised. At this point, I think I've been talking for 2 hours. 2 signs left, because we started with Pisces. We're going to do Capricorn and Aquarius. Are you in the live chat and you have yet to hit the like button, then consider doing so. I might try one more light. I'll be right back. Oh, I didn't change the signs yet. I meant to do that. Hang on. Coming. Aha. Aha, I found some more light in my house. Okay. Oh, that's even worse. That's like so glare. That is so glare. Okay, coming right back. I can't deal. Okay, I know I'm going to get trolled all over the place for actually moving my body and talking from the back end of my home. But I don't care. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to do me. All right. Still bad lighting, but I'll deal. Okay, so next, let's keep going. Next, it's time to unpack the ring light from storage. All right, you're not Sagittarius, you're Capricorn. Okay, for my time stamping sister, Capricorn is finally here. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. Drum roll, please. What happens when Saturn goes through Pisces for you once every 30 years? Remember that it's a long time ago it happened. Pisces is your 3rd house. It belongs to the house of siblings, sometimes extended family like aunts, uncles, cousins. Quite often it could be your younger sibling. And this is a place where then now Saturn is going to lend himself some attention. So it could be some hardship with those people in your life, or they experience some difficulties or hardships, or also you may find that you are distant from them, right? Because Saturn's a loner and you may not have contact with them for some reason. Second of all, Saturn moving through your 3rd house as a Capricorn rising especially can mean that you're going to want to study something traditional or something that's a body of knowledge that you really want to learn, but it's learning you're going to do because you're going to apply it. You're going to use it. It's going to be like a licensing kind of learning, not just, erudite, biophysics, cosmology of the universe. You're going to learn something useful. And Saturn brings you expert authority teachers, or if you are one of those people, you could be the expert authority teacher for others during this 3-year transit. Saturn is going to help bring to reality your dreams and goals that you've had in your 3rd house. If you wanted to write a book and you've been storytelling, fantasizing, and thinking about your story, okay, this is it. You got it off the ground. You figured it out. You've got realistic structure over the next 3 years to write that thing and get it done. Mm-hmm. Saturn here can also definitely help you make really structural changes to things you do online, on your platforms, on your website, on your marketing and selling and merchandising strategies. Saturn is really good here as well, in some ways for curtailing travel. Now you might think, well, who wants to curtail travel? Well, sometimes we travel too much, and so sometimes it can be a time to not travel so much. So Saturn constricts travel, especially back and forth stuff, commuting or going to, the back and forth, New York, LA, New York, LA, New York, LA. That would be that 3rd house energy of travel. And Saturn is containing and restricting it. And if that makes you feel better, maybe that's good for you because you don't want to do that much travel. And anything else I want to say about that? Not really. And so then you might make some dreams come true though, especially if you've been dreaming up a new neighborhood, or if your IC floats in the whole sign 3rd house, a new neighborhood, new home, coming into being for some Capricorns if your IC is in the third house. There's a solid, lasting new dream home in the next 3 years. Now, this year, of course, Saturn only goes to the 7th degree. So, of course, it influences people in the first 10 degrees of Cap a little more intensely, Sun and Moon as well. And the North Node has been creating eclipses through your 5th house of romantic love, your 5th house of children, fertility, independent business, owning your own company, owning your own business, entrepreneurial stuff, your 5th house of joy and pleasure. North Node is trying to expand that. That can be difficult too, because it sounds like, great, I'll expand my pleasure. But Rahu, North Node, through the 5th house makes you ravenous for pleasure, ravenous for sex, ravenous for romance, ravenous for whatever, fertility. So it can also be destabilizing. And you've been, focused there at the expense of your friendships and larger groups of belonging, at the expense of even your greater career gains. If you're an artist, this could have expanded your attention to the muse as well. Certainly, though, what'll happen here is that the first thing that happens is that Lord Saturn in your 3rd house will flow to the North Node, South Node axis in April between houses 11, 5, and 3, creating a flow of energy that benefits you in the area of money, luck, and romance, and independent business and children relationships as it connects to local neighborhood, siblings, or travel, short distance travel, or even learning, as I said. And at the same time, Jupiter is preparing in the middle of May to enter a year-long stay in your 5th house. Now, certainly this is a good lottery run for you to play lottery, but don't take my advice on YouTube for your finances. But I'm just saying, Jupiter brings luck in a money luck house, especially about gaming and winning. And that starts off mid-May of this year, Capricorns to 1 more year, May of 24. The second thing is that when Jupiter is moving through here, it's a fertility transit. If you or your partner wants to have a child, yay you. If you have your own business, then this is going to expand that business and make it more wealthy and prosperous. This will also amplify and expand your romantic and sexual energies, no doubt about it. And it's also a classic joy transit. So you're going to have a lot more joy the middle of May this year to next year. As Jupiter goes through here, he will connect with that gnarly North Node that's been making you ravenous for joy, play, pleasure, fun, and sexuality, and a bunch of other stuff. And now Jupiter expands the North Node, and the North Node expands Jupiter, but Jupiter is luck, and the North Node touching Jupiter means bigger luck, like super big luck. So what kind of super big luck bomb is going to go off in that chart? You got pregnant, yay! Or your partner did, or yay! My business took off, or yay! My leisure trip with my romantic partner is going to happen after all, or yay! I'm so inspired by my new creative idea, or yay, I won the lottery. So that's the last week of May, the first week of June. And then Saturn, moving through your 3rd house, catches up, and around the 7th degree of Pisces, as he's just turned retrograde on the 19th or so of June, forms a perfect sextile to the energy of Jupiter in your lucky 5th house. This is Saturn's attempt to consolidate something and to bring it into greater structure and form. For instance, you won the lottery and now you're going to buy a new house in your local neighborhood. For instance, your partner says she's pregnant or he's pregnant. She's pregnant. The woman is the womb man, the one with the womb, the womb man, the woman. So that one is pregnant and you are that one, and you're going to end up going into some exciting new adventures in a new neighborhood. I don't know. Some excitement and positivity in the last week of May, the first week of June, consolidates into new plans, form, and structure in your life already, starting in June, particularly near June the 19th. Because it's a retrograde Saturn, there's a possibility here as well, in your case, okay, that somebody from your past is involved in what's going on. And because it's 3rd house, it could be a relative, aunt, uncle, cousin, sibling, niece, and nephew getting involved in this excitement in the month of June. Or you're traveling to a place you've been before, that's an established place for you, connecting to the love and romance and all of that. But it's bigger than these little stories I'm telling you. It's kind of like Saturn wants to capitalize on what's been going on in that 5th house with the Jupiter North Node connection, all right? He wants to stick the landing and bring it home to your 3rd house. So a lot of you, it may have to do with like setting up a neighborhood shop, setting up a new website online, taking a new course of education that's going to be an important new career path in some skills-based learning. And all of that's getting super generated and excitable because Jupiter will help you get in touch with your true talents and your true gifts and skills creatively, artistically, and otherwise, well, he's in the fifth house. Rather than say, I'm going to learn to be an opera performer, me, I can't sing, as everyone knows, that would be an untrue skill. And so Jupiter will help you see your true joy skills as well, that you may wish to then parlay into courses and learning. All right. And we're going to move on to the last but not least, Aquarius, is because you get to be last this time, and then I am going to go buy some wine. It's been a long day, guys. I need a confession, my confessional at the end of Capricorn, because Capricorn's my 12th house of confessionals and ashrams. It's like, I am booked out now until the end of May. So I blocked my calendar in August. I blocked my calendar in July and June. I should block it in August. And I'm going to open up the doors again later because I don't want to be booked out that far off into the future. But I have to tell you, I even put less spots in the month of May because I can't keep up my pace of seeing these many clients and doing all these YouTube videos. So it's been an interesting time. More people want to see me than ever. I have less space than I normally have. And I hate to say no to people. Like I opened up about 15 new spots in the month of April, May at the behest of clients who are my repeat clients. I think I might be getting to that point where I have to jack up my prices, or I have to say only former clients can see me or something like that. So it's getting hard to figure out what to do at this point. If any of you has any suggestions in the comments down below of what you do when your business is growing really quickly. I'm on my 4th year of a full-time astrology business, all of 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, I'm going into my 5th year. This is what happens, suddenly you get the momentum that's really taking off. Although I've seen thousands of clients and I've done my field work. This is like really a generous time, but it's also stressful because I don't like saying no to people like when they want to see me. So if you have any suggestions in the comments, if you have any expertise in this, I'd appreciate your feedback. And I'm asking Capricorn, right? It's Capricorn. So they're like the wealth builder, resourceful type that knew what the hell to do with the situation. Okay, we're moving on to the last but not least of the Aquarius rising sun and moon. Oh my goodness, I am giddy. All right, I'm one of you. So let me get the change up of the picture so we can honor the Aquarius energy, the water bearer. We should create the water bearer society because Pluto's coming into our sign in the 3rd week of March. March is going to be rocking everybody's world. I'll be doing a whole video on the all signs coming up soon. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Okay, so the big story for Aquarius is Saturn been moving through our 1st house for 3 years, and he's leaving. So we could have equally started with us. So Saturn doesn't ever come back for another 29, 30 years. That's the good news. And so yes, it's been a very sobering, but we love Saturn because we're Saturn ruled time. Like Capricorn, we're ruled by Saturn. So wherever Saturn goes, we pay attention. Of course, he's moving into Pisces. That's our 2nd house of earnings for 3 years, March of this year, 7th to February of 26. He's going to help consolidate our financial gains by making us work smart, not hard, by making us look at structures and focus and discipline and systems maybe in order to get our cash flow, money, and revenue going in a consistent but not too exceedingly erratic manner. It's going to be more like how to figure out the system that continues us to get us systematically wealthy. He also here can help us lean out in terms of our food style. I often find, a Saturn transit through the 2nd from clients is like they suddenly go vegan or they drop, major food groups from their diet. They're stoic, austere, and aesthetic like an ascete with their foods. They do not want to overdo it. It's sattvic maybe, Rajasic, tamasic. Tamasic is sluggish foods. Rajasic is spicy and heated foods that make us agitated, including alcohol. And then I believe maybe alcohol is tamasic. And then sattvic is that in neutral, sage-like quality and that equanimity space. And so that's about how we're going to approach our food, our addictions, and our stuff with Saturn in our 2nd. He'll restrict, constrict, restrain, control, and discipline the stuff we do. That's how I'll write the Wine Lover's Middle Way book, because Saturn in my 2nd house will teach me how to be wine moderate. And when I say that, because you all wonder if I'm an alcoholic, what I mean is I'll take like 40 days off, 6 weeks off, any wine at all, but then I'll go back to my daily habit of wine with dinner. So no, I won't drink like 2 bottles of wine a day or things like that or get drunk. But it's just a habit of enjoying the pairing of the wine and the food. Now, cultivated fine taste in wine. Saturn here is also going to make it very much about during these years, bringing into reality and form financially some of our lofty spiritual visions and dreams that Neptune represents, with Neptune being in that part of our sky since 2011. So this is really good for me, having channeled the Coming Age of Miracles and the Way of Miracles, to bring those into publication, for example, because that's called a form that the channeling can go into, make it a book, make some money, sell it or something. I don't know, teach classes on it. That kind of thing. The other part of Saturn going through this part of our chart, we get really serious here and sober-minded and realistic about money as well. We're not going to spend money cavalierly. We're going to be conservative about finances. We're going to save. We'll keep our possessions rather than throw them out. The story would be like, oh yes, I love my sofa, but it's all dirty and natty. We're going to get it steam cleaned, and we're going to get it sewn to be all good again. Like there's almost a pristine austerity around possessions, right? Or sometimes it's like you want to get an antique piece of furniture, an antique piece of a vehicle. That's very Saturn through the second for a lot of us Aquariuses. New isn't always better. You know what I mean? Refurbished laptop, for example. And it's quality over quantity in money and possessions, because you're looking for things that go the distance, that last. Like a Saturnian coat would be a Chanel or something, I suppose. I mean, it lasts a long time. The quality and the workmanship of your possessions. That's kind of funny, because I think of antiques that way as well, because I think they were made better back then. Now, with Saturn moving through the second house, this is a really, really good time to bring in any kind of authority expert people for us to guide us on our money story, so a money coach, a finance coach, or all that. And Saturn will also be opening up quarters for purchases and buying and selling of real estate, because he's sextiling the fourth house of our chart, and that's where Jupiter is about to go. So let's continue with that story. Jupiter, starting in the middle of May of this year to next May of 24, will love up our fourth house of property, land, home, and real estate. Bigger home, larger home, wealthier home, expansive home, expanding in the home, teaching from home, teachers in your home, leading from home, leaders in your home. Jupiter in the fourth house, legacy wealth, inheritances, money from you or your spouse coming through the system to you. Now, all of that happening is good. And it's Jupiter angular. He's like focused on your career from the bottom of the sky. He's focused on your marriage house. He's focused on your body and health. Jupiter is benefic. When he's angular, it's all good. Before that happens, before he enters there in the middle of May, there's going to be a window in April where the North Node eclipse cycle that's been rattling with Uranus as well through our fourth house of home, making us nomads since 2018 when Uranus ingressed in there, and then the North Node making us ravenously desperate for a landing pad, starting all of 22 into 23. So desperate for a landing pad and a permanent home. Are you my home? Are you my home? It's like, are you my mother? The old Dr. Seuss thing. We're going to be so desperately seeking Susan, desperately seeking a home. We have been, as a North Node and Uranus have been destabilizing our home life, especially all of 22 into the middle of 23. So I mean, it's not always great with the North Node. You think, oh, it's the North Node destiny, I'm changing my home, but you're also overly ambitious and desperate with the North Node. It's grasping energy, right? Rahu is, we run for the material carrot at the expense of our soul. And like, I can also tell you a story. I almost changed my home to a situationship in Ontario. I couldn't tell the difference between whether I wanted to land in that home because there was a potential relationship that I could partake of, or I was just desperate for a home to land in, and there was this relationship there too. I don't know. It was very gnarly for me in the summer last year to figure out where I was really coming from in myself, because I so desperately just wanted to land. I mean, even told my sister I'll buy a house in Northern Ontario where the snowbanks are 15 feet and it's so cold it's like minus 35. And I fled that place when I was 19 and never went back. And that's how desperate I am, because I can afford a house in Northern Ontario because the houses are cheap in the northern hinterlands of Canada compared to where they are here in Vancouver, which is ridiculous. So this kind of shit's going on for a lot of Aquariuses. Now, the story, though, is where what's going to happen is that when Jupiter comes in here, he blesses us in the land, home, and real estate story. That's the end of the story. No more desperate grasping. And just before that, in the month of April, Saturn, moving through our possessions, resources, earnings house, and self-worth and values, looks down over at the fourth house Jupiter no, I mean the fourth house north node at 3 degrees of the sign of Taurus, and feels up the love between the nodal eclipse cycle. It will really propel us towards more maturity in our career space and our ambitions around our career. But at the same time, it will sort of soften the intensity around looking for our true home, last home, final home, where do we want to live? And then later, as Jupiter is now already in mid-May, entered into our fourth house, he bumps into the North Node, which expands Jupiter. North Node makes things bigger that it touches, like North Node Mars blows up buildings. North Node Jupiter blows up luck. Big luck bomb going off in the house of property, land, home, and real estate, legacy, wealth. For every Aquarius rising, especially Sun and Moon secondarily, that's happening for you the last week of May. Well, did I get that right? Well, yeah, Jupiter North Node the last week of May, the first week of June, and then Saturn seals the deal. He comes along around the 19th of June and locks it into place. Whatever he's doing has to do with what Jupiter was doing with the North Node, as Saturn then sextiles Jupiter over at 7 degrees of Taurus, as well as the 7 degrees of Pisces. Now, of course, yes, if you have planets at 7 degrees of Pisces and Taurus, it will be more impacted. Like I have Venus in that zone in my Taurus house. So it involves beauty. When you know your sky, you can look at planets at 7 Taurus or near. You can look at planets near or at 7 Pisces, right? Well, I have a planet 7 Pisces. I have Jupiter. So I've got Jupiter and Venus being activated by this transit as well. I've got Saturn near my Jupiter, my Pisces house, and I've got Jupiter on my Venus, so it's very auspicious, right? So when you know your chart, you know more about what the heck this is about. And certainly it could resolve this grasping for a place to live or the property home question, or it's to do with legacy, wealth, and inheritance, resolving things to do with teaching from home and learning from home, being amplified in the most positive way imaginable. And again, you're going to see a lot of that blowing through the sky in the month of June as this Saturnian impulse from the second house of conserving resources and spending wisely activates the property house. So it could be an ideal property purchase, the ideal price on a sale of a home, a successful relocation of your home, on and on and on. And I'm going to go with that. That's what it feels like. So I finally got through all signs. I think this is an extraordinarily long video for my time stamping sister. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please come check out all of my offerings in my course description box, and come to do Sky Reader in mid-March. Be your own astrologer. Time your best life. It's not to teach you to become a professional astrologer. It's to be an astrologer for yourself. There's only so much I can teach you in 8 weeks. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here in the live chat with me. I am going to go get some wine. I'm going to make some feta Greeks olive salad, my Greek salad I don't eat steak very often, but I craved red meat. So with a organic grass-fed pasture, local raised bit of sirloin steak. And I'm going to enjoy that tonight. And then I'm going to go to work tomorrow, because this is Thursday, February 9th, and I see clients in the morning. So I will see you guys on the next video. I'm not sure when this one comes up in my series of videos, but please go back and look at what I've had before this. And I'm losing power, so I'm going to plug in. Ciao, ciao. I'm losing power in my laptop.